What is up, everybody? You are listening to Any Given Sunday and watching. I keep forgetting that. You are listening and watching Any Given Sunday, the Monday edition for Monday, September 19th, 2022. I am your host, Manny Brown, joined as always by my co-host, Josh Rodriguez. Josh, what is up?
What's going on, man? It's been a while. It's been a really, really, really long time, but I'm happy to be back.
It's been a minute. Summer break, man.
Some vacay.
Although I said it last week, right? We always usually take like a summer off. And usually every summer is kind of dead. It's quiet. You got that like dead period. But this summer, for some reason, it just felt like it's just nonstop with news. NBA, NFL, even baseball had a lot of news. Like it was just a lot of news this summer. So we kind of missed out on some big things. But it is what it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it also didn't feel like a summer for some reason. I don't know if it's because I live in LA and every day is the same outside. But I didn't do summer things. It felt
not the rest of us mortals. We live outside of Southern California where it's 80.
Well, it didn't feel like summer because every day feels like summer in Los Angeles.
Right.
That came off. Sorry, that didn't mean to come off that way. But yeah, it was an interesting summer. It went by very quick for sure.
Well, it always feels like it goes by really quick, but it is what it is, man. How you doing? I told the folks that you were battling the COVID, Rona.
I had the Rona.
How you doing? How you feeling, man?
Had some breathing troubles, but nothing too serious. I'm doing fine. I feel like I never had it right now, so that's good. The symptoms came and they went, and I'm good right now. So
for the listeners out there, for the people out there that think COVID's gone, it's still very much alive.
Yeah, no matter what the politicians tell you, we're moving on like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Let's not get into that. That's not what we had on the agenda.
Not today, at least. Not today. Hey, we got a couple more weeks to the midterms, and depending on what happens,
I can't wait for that.
That's very interesting show.
Well, we should go live during the fucking midterms.
You just gave me an
do that. I'm down.
I'm down.
Okay.
I'm down. You guys heard it here first. Midterm, Any Given Sunday, baby.
I love it, bro. I love it.
We're here. We're online. We'll set up the details and we'll advertise.
I'm sure the Vanguard boys will be doing something, but we could probably get some guests. That'd be fun.
Yeah, we should. You know what? Let me work on that. We might be able to do it. That'll be good. That'll be very good. But hey, we're not here to talk about boring politics, evil Brandon, as they like to call him, and all this other shit. We're not here to talk about that. Joe Biden, aka
Dark Brandon.
Dark Brandon. That's what
Dark Brandon.
Dark Brandon. Yes. We're not here to talk about the modern day FDR. We're here to talk about some football, man. Good old fashioned American football. Yeah, let's get right into it, man. Week 2. Shout out to Justin, by the way, too, who filled in admirably for you last week. We did a quick show just because he was on the East Coast too. So he, just we're limited with him. I didn't want to keep him up all night, but he filled in admirably. We just kind of ran through the schedule last week, did our week 1 overreactions. We really didn't do too much overreaction. So I'll save that for this week more so since we got a little bit of a bigger sample size, obviously 2 weeks in. But before we kind of go through each game, just kind of 1 or 2 things that kind of stood out for you this week or this weekend as far as football.
Man, I didn't think the Eagles were that good. I know this is a kind of prisoner of the moment, and we just literally saw them. This is the last game that I saw play. Mm-hmm. For one, like we talked about it before the show, but for some reason I had faith in Kirk Cousins and the Vikings today. They were a team that I was very high on going into the season. And I thought they would probably make a little bit of a statement here against a team in the NFC East I think is a little overrated or thought was a little overrated going into the game. But Jalen Hurts looks good, man. He looked really, and I'm not just talking about like, I'm going to run the football and like in the pocket looks good. On the run looks good. I tweeted about it. I was kind of half joking, but in my way too early MVP rankings, like he's in the discussion right now. 2 games. I mean,
already, huh?
Very early. I'm not saying he's yet. Of course, like you have your Josh Allen right now is like the heavy favorite to win it. Yeah. But what I am saying is the Eagles were very impressive. So maybe it's the thing that's freshest on my mind, and that's why I'm thinking about it. But I didn't think they were that good, and they pretty much shut me up today.
Yeah, no, I've been bullish on the Eagles. I think I'm really high. I know we didn't get a chance to do our preview or our picks to start the year, unfortunately, but I had the Eagles winning the NFC East.
Same.
I just think they're the most balanced, well-rounded team in that division right now. I think
They're the only team in that division right now that's worthy talking about.
Yeah,
if I'm being honest.
yeah. I mean, the Cowboys are always a story, negatively or positively. You've got the Commanders, the Washington football. I hate that fucking name. I'm sorry. The artist formerly known as the Redskins. You know, just God, the Commanders. But anyway,
I thought the football team was kind of classy and like I liked that. I like the football
I know
team.
it may seem fucked up to say this, but if Redskins wasn't so offensive,
Right.
I just gosh.
Yeah, that's a weird thing to say.
I know, right? If Negro wasn't so offensive, I would love to say that.
Man, I really liked the New Mexico.
That's horrible.
I really, really liked the New Mexico Wetbacks, man. That was
I really do, man. If it wasn't so listen, I am not advocating for the connotations that the name may be substituted for. I'm just saying my whole life, 35 years on Earth.
No, I get it. I still slip up and say it, man.
I still say it too. I was having a conversation with one of my buddies at work, and he's a Washington football team fan. And I'm just talking casually, shooting the shit, and it's like, oh yeah, the Redskins do it. Yeah, the Redskins do it. The Commanders,
right. And I still call the Guardians the Indians. That's harder for me.
That one's hard too. Although that one I haven't slipped up as much. The Redskins, I don't know why. It's just because it's just the Redskins, man. It's the Skins, or at least the Skins.
Nah, man, we gotta move past it. Let's move forward.
I know.
Let's move forward as I do
I'm not advocating for the name coming back. Just putting that out there. The Washington football team, they're obviously going to be in a conversation because they're owner, obviously, and they're a team with talent, but you can't fully trust them. So to say that division is not the best division in football, obviously. But I think the Eagles have a chance. I mean, I think they really are. And like you said, Jalen Hurts. I've been tough on Jalen Hurts. I've been critical of him. I've always been very critical, even going back to his days in college with Alabama and then Oklahoma. I just didn't know how great of a quarterback he could be because he was still really inconsistent throwing the football. But he's gotten better. And listen, that's what you want to see out of a young quarterback. You want to see that natural progression from year 1 to year 3. And I think this is his 3rd year. And he's coming into his own. He really is playing. Now, it's only 2 games, but he's really coming into his own. You could all you want as a fan following a team that has a young quarterback. You want to see that natural progression. You want to see, okay, this quarterback is different from year 1 to year 2. This quarterback is different from year 2 to year 3. You want to see that because that lends credence to the coaching staff, to the motto of the organization. We are developing this guy. That's what you want to see. And I think if you're an Eagles fan right now, I think you got to be very happy with what you see out of Jalen Hurts. Again, just 2 weeks, 2 games. Obviously, we got to see more. But if he continues at this pace, I mean, there's no reason to believe that you've got a keeper long-term at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I agree. I want to point something else, too. I'm speaking of quarterback play, Tua.
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
You got to give him props, bro. I saw a video on Twitter where the guy he reversed the video, like a mirror image of it, so it looks like Tua throwing right-handed, and it actually doesn't look bad with him throwing righty. It was the weirdest thing ever. It was like, wait a second, if he was right-handed, would we be talking about the way he throws the football? I'm not the biggest believer in Tua himself. I think they have the perfect coach right now for Tua's abilities, and they have the perfect receiver skill set for Tua, where you have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and a lot of screen passes, a lot of quick slants that's going to bring the defense up, and you can go over the top every once in a while. So it's not so much that I think it's Tua as much as it's the coaching and the scheme and the personnel.
He's got 2 all-pro wide receivers, essentially.
Yeah.
He's got Tyreek Hill, who's one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. And you got Jalen Waddle, who's an emerging star. Like, they got a good offensive line. They got a good run game. The coach has a good scheme. I don't know if he's a great coach yet, but he's got a good scheme.
It's working so far.
It's working so far. Yeah. They came back and they stole that game from the Ravens yesterday. Mm-hmm. Listen, the thing with Tua is, can Tua win you games? Yes. He's a guy that you know what he is? He's a lesser Dak Prescott. Okay. In the sense that he's not super, like, that's the thing with Dak, right? He's not talented. Like, you don't watch him like, wow, the arm strength, the physical, like, but I think he's more of an intangibles guy with Dak. And I think the same thing is with Tua. I don't know if it's the intangibles, but I don't think he's talented. But I think that he's good enough where if he's got good wide receivers, a good running game, a good offensive line, you keep him upright, you've got a good solid coach, you don't rely on him to necessarily be the guy. I think you can win with Tua. The problem is it's like, oh, Tua's now Justin Herbert, he's always going to be forever linked because they took Tua instead of Justin Herbert.
Right.
You know, if you want Tua to be Justin Herbert or Josh Allen or
That's
Mahomes,
not him.
He's not that guy, right?
Yeah.
He's not that guy. So I think that's the issue with Tua. But yeah, I mean, let's give Tua credit. You know, he's driving a Ferrari right now. And
that's it. He's driving a Ferrari. You're right.
He's not crashing it. Give him credit. You know, he's keeping it on the road.
Right.
65.
Right.
Looking nice riding it. He's good.
Right. He's driving a Ferrari. How difficult is it to drive a Ferrari?
I mean, listen, you give me Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and you know, Mike Gesicki and you know, a good offensive line. Listen, it's not bad. It's not bad. So, but yeah, Tua. So Tua and Jalen Hurts, two Alabama quarterbacks, formerly Alabama quarterbacks that are maybe showing signs of life for you, huh?
Yeah. What was your biggest takeaway?
Biggest takeaway, man. I would say number one, the NFC is completely wide open. I don't really see a great team in the NFC. I know we talked about it in the offseason, like, man, the NFC looks like it's going to be completely wide open.
Yeah.
But I really don't think the NFC is that great. I think that the best team might be Tampa. It's early, obviously 2 games, but the best team might be Tampa. And I don't even think Tampa's been that impressive.
Hasn't looked right this year. Like,
yeah, I mean, listen, and I'm saying that fully admitting that I haven't even been like that impressed with Tampa. Like, they've played okay, but they haven't like, oh wow, these are world beaters. Like, I think they might be the best team out of a bunch of garbage because the Rams haven't looked that impressive. I know we'll go through the chain, but the Rams haven't been that impressive. The Cardinals, talk about stealing a game. It was a weekend of teams really stealing games. The Cardinals committed one of the, if it wasn't for the Jets, completely stealing a game from the Browns. We'll get to that. Come on, the Jets won a September game for the first time in 4 years. Come on now. We'll get to that. If it wasn't for the Jets committing highway robbery yesterday, the Cardinals would have been the biggest winners of highway thievery. I mean, they completely stole that game for the Raiders. Now the Raiders gave it away too. But I haven't been that impressed with the Cardinals. I'm not buying into the Cardinals this year. The Rams, like I said, haven't been that impressive.
What the Niners with Jimmy G now?
I'll get to that. Was going to be my next point. The Niners. Listen, it's sad what happened to. Obviously, you never want to see anybody get hurt, and you feel bad for the kid because he's just had a string of a lot of bad luck, essentially, between COVID wiping out his college year, really not playing. He hasn't. By the time he gets back, he will not have played an NFL game. Essentially, he's played what? How many games did he play last year?
2?
Yeah, like 2 games last year, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Essentially, in 4 years, since 2019, college and pro, he's played about 5 games in 4 years. I mean, it's crazy. But saying that in that the Niners are the biggest winners of the weekend because they held on to Jimmy Garoppolo. And say what you want to say about Jimmy Garoppolo. I know NFL Twitter kills Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a supermodel playing quarterback. He's this, he's that. He sucks. He's got all this talent. He's got defense. He's got this. He's got that. All I know is the guy wins. The guy wins. He was a 4th quarter away from winning a Super Bowl. He was a 4th quarter away from getting back to a Super Bowl. The guy wins.
Yep.
Say what you want to say about him. He wins. He outplayed Rodgers in the playoffs. Now I know that's not exactly a new ceiling because Aaron Rodgers apparently.
Listen. I don't care. Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. That's an accomplishment.
Absolutely. The guy wins. Okay, The guy wins. And if you look at his stats, they're not terrible. The guy plays well. I get it. Is he Patrick Mahomes? No, but he's in that next tier, that second tier. You know, Jimmy Garoppolo is a decent quarterback. And listen, the Niners are better for have kept them because now they've got their team set. And he's a popular guy. He's won there. The players like him. From everything that you read, the players like that guy.
Yeah.
Say what you want to say about him. They like him. They trust him. They've been through the wars with him. They know he can win. He can go into any building and win. He's proven it. Like, the guy is a winner. Okay, he may make some big mistakes. Sometimes he looks terrible. I get it. But the guy wins. There's something to be said for winning.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was my biggest takeaway too. The Niners. It's a bad because they lost their young quarterback that they traded, however many picks, but it's a good thing that they ended up keeping Garoppolo. And I said this on Dead End Sports, right? I said the Niners' hesitancy to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo is an indictment on Trey Lance. I don't care what anybody in that building says. I don't care what that front office said. What do you want them to say? Trey Lance sucks? They're not going to say that. That was an indictment on Trey Lance. I don't think they believed in him. I think they were forcing it. I really do. And I think you saw. I don't think you saw anything to disprove that last week where he just didn't play great. Conditions aside, he didn't play great. And I think this week they're fortunate that they have Jimmy Garoppolo to fall back onto that could keep the ship steered and moving.
Save their season. It is really interesting how like the Niners are in this win now mode. They basically, some say, have the most talented team in the NFC, yet you're handing the keys over to a rookie essentially who never really started really in the NFL. It's his first full season. Like,
he hasn't played, and his last year in college was wiped out.
Yeah,
it's one game his last year in college. He hasn't.
How much pressure? Like, how bad do you think Jimmy G is, or do you think Trey's that good? But if you think Trey's that good, you're not really showing signs that you think Trey's that good. It's just a weird situation that I think the organization was probably very split on. Sources, according to some people that I've spoken to, that when they traded for Jimmy G, they didn't want to keep him long term. They wanted Kirk Cousins, and they were planning on shipping out Jimmy G. But he played so well when he first got there. They went like 5-0 with Jimmy G when they traded for him, that they were like, all right, well, I guess we'll keep him. Then they made the Super Bowl, and so they kind of felt like they were stuck with him, which makes no sense because you kind of think, well, I found my quarterback if he's doing that for you. So I just think the whole organization has mixed feelings on Jimmy G. I think, the GM and the brain trust went with Trey Lance and wants to push that agenda where he should start. And I think there's a lot of hesitancy, and that's why you signed Jimmy G was kind of a compromise. And, I think, and I'm sure you think, as just by the way you're talking, that it was kind of like a blessing in disguise for Niners fans and the Niners team that, Trey got hurt. And that sounds horrible to say. I feel bad for Trey Lance and hope he recovers quickly. But this is a win now team. This is a team that can win the Super Bowl this year, go to the Super Bowl this year with the team that they have constructed. But they weren't going to do it with Trey Lance. Let's be real. It wasn't going to happen.
There's no evidence that Trey Lance can play. And listen, I was high on Trey Lance, so this isn't me killing Trey Lance. I love the kid's talent, but I have to admit, the kid hasn't played in 3 years.
I still don't know what he is. I have no idea what he is.
Nobody knows. I mean, if you don't watch, listen, even you know me. I'm a huge college football man. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I was watching North Dakota State on a weekly basis. Right. The times I did catch him on live, he impressed me. He looks good. He's talented. He's like a more athletic Jalen Hurts. But
that's what I hear he is.
He's a more athletic Jalen Hurts, but he hasn't shown it. And it's not exactly in the greatest of offenses to show it. That's the other issue.
Yep,
right?
That's true. Shanahan wants you to throw 20 times a game.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So he's not exactly in the greatest of offense to really show it, even though he is with a quarterback guru, so they say. He's not exactly in the greatest of offense that suits his scheme, or his skill set, I should say. He's not in the greatest scheme that fits his skill set. So exactly, he's in a tough situation. Listen, if this kid ends up busting like he might have the potential to be, this is a huge indictment on Shanahan, and now they'll probably get over it and they'll get by it because if let's say they win the Super Bowl this year, nobody's going to be thinking about Trey Lance. I shouldn't say that. It will look better in retrospect because they kept Garoppolo, let's say wins the Super Bowl or whatever, and they could at least stomach it. But if they end up not winning the Super Bowl, falling short, and either they lose Garoppolo to free agency or whatever, and this kid ends up not being anything, that's a huge indictment on that organization. I mean, you traded up. You traded multiple first-round picks to get up there, and you got this kid, and you stamped this kid as the guy. He's got to deliver. He's got to be that guy. And if he's anything less than that, that's a huge indictment on the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, whatever Jimmy does this year with the team, like Trey has to match, period, at some point in his career. And honestly, I feel like he has to match a Super Bowl appearance because you're replacing Jimmy G, who took you to Super Bowl, took you to an NFC Championship game. Like, you have to keep that level of success. Like, there's just no, like with Trey, and I feel bad for him because a lot of rookies do have a lot of grace, like Zach Wilson, for instance. Like, you're acting Zach just to not embarrass himself. But Trey Lance, you're like, hey, listen, you're coming in right away in a situation where we expect you to make at least the NFC Championship game.
Yeah. See, it's almost weird, but Trey Lance should have probably went to the team like the Lions. Not a
Right.
lot of there's expectations because he would have been a top pick, but not a lot of expectation is that they're not a ready-made team. He can kind of
Right.
grow with the team and grow with the franchise as he grows and he's matures, the team matures. When you're going to the 49ers, bro, you're expected to you've been handed the Ferrari.
Right.
Hey, don't crash it now.
Right.
And you're like, oh, okay, I've only driven twice in the last 3 years, but okay, I won't crash this Maserati. Like, okay, it's crazy, man. But that was my other thing. I thought that was a huge development this season. Is the 49ers might have saved their season with a fortuitous, and I hate to say it, but with a fortuitous ankle fracture.
Yeah. And I hope
And
he gets better. We're not saying that we're happy that Trey got hurt.
Right. We're not saying that we're happy or that we were rooting for it. Neither one of us are Niners fans, so we're not even happy about this necessarily. But we're just saying, looking at it objectively, and what this does also too is just that it clears the noise out, right? Like, so now you don't have this kid constantly looking over his shoulder, because that's the other thing too. Every time he struggles, every time he throws a pick, every time he struggles, that team gets out to a 3-5 start. He's struggling. The Garoppolo calls come. Now all of a sudden 49ers fans love Jimmy Garoppolo. Standing ovation yesterday. Love him. They love him. They love Jimmy Garoppolo. It's all good in the hood, right?
Right.
Of course. That's why they say the most popular guy in the building is the backup quarterback.
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, listen, it clears up the noise. Now Garoppolo's the guy. They don't have to worry about Trey Lance at least for another year. And it just makes things clear.
Yep.
And they're back to being the favorite. To me, I don't see if they play up to their potential with that defense, with that running game. Garoppolo can just steer the ship. To me, I think they're probably the best team in the NFC. I mean, I don't think we've seen anything to really.
Yeah, I think they're up there. I think you still have to respect the Rams a little bit. I know they haven't looked so well or too good in the first couple weeks of the season. I think losing Von Miller probably hurts them a lot.
I'm not impressed with the Rams.
Yeah, no, I know, but they are the defending Super Bowl champions, man. And I think they'll end up turning it around at some point. So,
yeah, I was not a Rams lover last
week. Yeah. It's Niners, Rams, Bucks, Eagles. Those are the only 4 teams that I think could probably.
Even yesterday, even yesterday, they got out to a 28-3 lead.
Almost blew it.
Almost blew it.
To the king of blowing 28-3.
Right, exactly, right? I wasn't even that, even yesterday, it just didn't feel like, the Rams are back. Like, they're okay. They're Rams. I mean, you got to respect them, like you said.
Yeah.
And they're still, I think the not having first-round picks, not really kind of turning over that roster, getting younger, developing more guys, I think it's caught up to them a little bit. Stafford's not the same guy. At least in 2 weeks, he's not the same guy. I think you talked about Von Miller. The guy they miss is OBJ. That's the guy that they really miss.
On offense, yeah.
And they really miss him. And I'm again through 2 weeks. Now, what's going to happen in week 7? We don't know. But through 2 weeks, the season ended today. Can you really sit here and say that you like what you've seen out of the Rams?
No, I can't. But I'm also a Giant fan that's seen the Giants go 0-2 to start the season and turn it around and win the Super Bowl. So I had that embedded in my head. Every time I see a team that starts off slow, that's what I think. Where it's like, oh, I remember that year the Giants were 0-2 and then turned it up. So, it's how you finish. And there's so many times throughout history where, like the Bengals last year, who made the Super Bowl, they didn't win it, but it's like after week 2, no one was thinking the Bengals were going to go to the Super Bowl. So it is how you look in towards the end of the year. And I think the Rams are a team that have the talent, they have the elements there, they have the pedigree there, that I don't think you can just write them off. I agree with you. They don't look that good right now and they need a tune up here and there, but they're a team that I'm not willing to kind of write off just because of a slow start. Same with the Bucks.
Yeah. I just feel a little bit better about the Bucks. Partially because they played an easier division, honestly.
And partially because they have Tom Brady on their fucking team.
Even 45-year-old Tom Brady with marital issues is still better than a lot of guys.
Yep. So
that being said, yes, the Bucks are still in pretty good in a good position. Yeah, I'm a little bit higher on the Bucks per se than I am the Rams right now. Okay. Just because I think the Bucks are in a little bit better standing. That division's not that great. It's not difficult.
Right.
The Saints have talent, but their quarterback is Jameis Winston. And honestly, that's the other kind of thing I noticed this week is, again, these teams that are ready-made teams but have question marks at the quarterback position are limited. I mean, you look at the Steelers. How many games you're going to really win with Mitch Trubisky? That was a winnable game yesterday against Mitch Trubisky.
I don't know why they haven't started with Pickett. I understand the whole theory of not playing your quarterback right away. It needs to be ready, but you're starting Mitch Trubisky, and you have a team that could probably make the playoffs under the right circumstances if Pickett is, it doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sure Pickett will be starting by week 5.
You look at the Saints, again, Jameis Winston, I call Jameis Winston the AJ Burnett of the NFL. And the guy For those of you who don't know AJ Burnett, I do a lot of baseball references here on this show. Just Google AJ Burnett.
Oh, that is so accurate.
Just talk to a baseball fan
and a Yankee fan specifically
above the age of 20.
Oh my goodness.
That remembers AJ Burnett, and they'll tell you why.
What do you have, like a seven walk no hitter? Like,
but that's the thing, though. AJ Burnett was a guy. There's no in between with AJ Burnett.
Right.
He'll come out and throw gas, 7 innings, 14 strikeouts, 3 walks, look completely dominant, and then his next start he'll give up 8 runs and can't get out of the second inning. I mean, that's Jameis Winston. He'll throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns one week, and then he'll throw 3 interceptions, back-breaking interceptions at that the next week. You just can't really trust the guy.
Yeah. I was leaning more towards like J.R. Smith, but I think the AJ Burnett.
No, he's AJ. He's the AJ Burnett of NFL quarterbacks, bro.
That's hilarious.
That's literally who he is.
That's hilarious.
That's literally who he is, man. I can't. Yeah. I can't find a better comp than AJ Burnett, man.
That beats
it. Comparing MLB pitchers to quarterbacks isn't exactly an apples.
But it makes perfect sense. If you know the sport of baseball, that makes perfect sense.
That's what I got, man. That's what I got. But saying that is, it's just, again, the Saints are a talented team, but again, how far can they go when you have Jameis Winston as the quarterback?
Not far.
You're not going far. Titans, we saw it tonight. They have an issue with Tannehill. Oh, well, their issue isn't only Tannehill. I think the Tannehill's being scapegoated. They have a lot of issues on that team. They're too one-dimensional. They got rid of for the life of me, I will never, ever understand why they were so in a rush to get rid of AJ Brown. I will not. That's still, to me, to this day, the dumbest trade.
They have no weapons. They have no weapons.
They have no weapons. You have Derrick Henry and what else?
That's it. Like, teams have no other choice but to stack the box on. At least with AJ Brown, you had the threat of the passing game. And even with Julio last year, even though Julio wasn't who he was, like, that threat was there. Like, Robert Woods doesn't scare me. I like Robert Woods. He's a nice receiver, but he's not going to put the fear of God into me if I'm a defense. I'm going to stack 8 in the box. I'm going to make Derrick Henry run all over me. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything you said. So the Titans have some issues, the Colts, like, I think they're limited at the court. Matt Ryan,
it just seems like it's you trade Phillip Rivers for Carson Wentz for Matt Ryan, and the team looks exactly the same.
And here's the thing: what is Frank? Listen, I love Frank Reich.
Yeah,
love Frank Reich, but he's got to start getting some heat too.
Yeah,
like
I agree.
Frank Reich, I mean, that team blew a postseason opportunity last year, and now they're 0-2, or not 0-2, 0-1. They pretty much should be 0-2. Like, that team, and for all that talent, for that team is a talented.
You couldn't put up a point against the Jags. Not a single point against the Jags?
Yes.
Come on.
Like, I think part of the issue is Frank Reich. I think part of the issue is the quarterback position. They just don't have a – Matt Ryan's not the guy. I'm sorry. He was in 2010. He's not there now. Yeah. He's just not that guy anymore.
Right. And neither was Wentz. Neither was Wentz. Neither was Rivers.
But you can't keep blaming quarterbacks either. Carson Wentz is not there. They scapegoated Carson Wentz last year. Carson Wentz was the problem. Everything – he's the reason. It was Carson Wentz. It was nothing else. It was Carson Wentz, right? Well, he's not there anymore. So what's the issue now?
Yeah. What's the common denominator there? Coach.
And I like Frank Reich. I think he's a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
But if this doesn't clean up, and I get it, it's 2 games. I get it. But it has not looked good. It has not looked good. And I hate these people that say, oh, it's just 2 games. The NFL. Listen, 2 games can cost you an NFL season. These are 17 games. Mm-hmm. This isn't 162. This is 82 games. This is 2 games out of 17. You go on a 4-game losing streak, your season could be done, potentially.
Yep.
So for all the people out there that say, oh, well, these games are early. It's early. Don't worry about it. Like, yo, these games matter. That's why the NFL is NFL's great. These games matter. It's a week-to-week sport. These games matter. So yeah, but that's what the biggest thing for me. These teams that have quarterbacks questions at quarterback, they're just limited. I mean, how good can they really be when you have question marks at the quarterback position? The Titans, the Steelers, who else was it?
Cowboys.
Cowboys, arguably. Yeah.
Yep. Even honestly, man, like I don't want to say this yet, but like Russell Wilson, even where it's just kind of like this
I
was
was going to get to him.
that I
Oh,
expected. I mean, I was really high on the Broncos coming, and you have that defense, and you have a team in my head that I'm like, oh, you guys are ready to win right now. If Russ can cook, this team has an unlimited ceiling, and I give you credit because you're always on Russell Wilson, bro. He's always the first half MVP. He always gets off the hot starts, but something's. I don't know what's going. I don't know if it's. Nathaniel Hackett actually, I think has a lot of blame that he needs to shoulder for this as well.
How bad was that decision last week in your eyes?
Which one? There was like 10 of them.
Well, the decision.
Yeah, it was. I mean, if you're talking about the one in Seattle, that one for sure.
Yes.
You pay this man all. I'm not saying anything new or groundbreaking here, but you basically pay all this money for Russ Wilson to come over, and you have a 4th and 5. That's what you pay him for, and then you expect a field goal kicker to kick a 64-yard field goal when he's never done it in his career.
In high altitude, in Seattle,
like literally like you're not getting on the bus because you're fired offense,
bro. And that speaks to a greater issue that I wanted to talk to you about. This league now with these coaches, that's another kind of theme that's like these coaches. I don't think coaching in the NFL has ever been worse. Clock management is a huge issue in the sport right now. These coaches have no idea what they're doing. These staffs are filled with 30-odd coaches. Each staff has 30. They can't find a time management specialist. Just a guy that sits there and literally sits by the coach.
Right.
And it's just like,
call time out. Don't call time out.
A former coach.
Anybody.
You know what it is? Another baseball reference. A bench coach.
Right.
You can call it a sideline coach. All his job is just to be a voice for the head coach. Hey, man, coach, you might want to call time out here. You might want to challenge that one. I would. When I was on the seat, I kind of would. So think about that. Like, they're picking these offensive coordinators and these defensive coordinators, but more so offensive coordinators, these offensive gurus, these guys that can scheme and draw up plays like nobody's business, right? But these guys, they may be boy geniuses, but they don't know how to run a football game. They don't know how to sit there and CEO this shit and run. And I think McVay, for all the credit I think McVay's a lot of that. McVay can scheme the hell out of a game. He can make a quarterback look great, scheme, all that. But managing a game, when you're in a crucible of a football game, and you got to make decisions, when to go for it, not to go for it, when to challenge, not to challenge, when to call timeout, not to call timeout, what plays to run on what downs, reading the situation. Not every 4th down is the same, right?
Right.
Not every 4th down is the same. Not every game, not every situation within a game is the same, right? If you have a defense that's been dominating all day, maybe you may not go for 4th down there. You may kick the field goal and take the points. All of these things, running a football game, that art has been lost because you get these guys that are 35 coming out of Dartmouth that, can scheme their way with the best of them, but can't run a fucking game to save their life.
And pay attention to analytics too.
Exactly.
It's like Joe Girardi when he was when he was a manager for the Yankees. Always look at his fucking binder. Always look at his binder for every single decision he made. And I feel like a lot of NFL coaches are doing that now too, where it's just kind of like, well, what did analytics say? The new thing now, which I didn't realize till this year, I think they started doing this year, is that when a team scores a touchdown when they're down 14, they cut it to 8 and they go for 2 to make it a 6-point.
Stupid. Dumb.
How is that? I mean, first of all, I don't even know why analytics says that's the right thing to do, but that is beyond stupid to me because, and it happened, I forgot what game it happened. You score a touchdown down 14. Now you're down 8. What happens if you miss an extra point or something? It just does not.
You know what the problem is with analytics, and it's in every sport? It doesn't take in the human element.
Right.
The
Right.
human element, the thing that you can't quantify on a stat sheet or on a
Right.
computer.
And the
You know?
personality of your team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It doesn't take in, and I know that people hate, those things, those intangibles, the things that you can't qualify or
Right.
quantify in a stat sheet or explain, right? Momentum, feel for the game, which
Right.
team has momentum, which team is gaining, which team, what I mean? It doesn't quantify for that. It's just like what the computer says. This is a smart play. And it's just like it's paralysis by analysis. And I think that a lot of coaches are falling victims to that.
Right.
And it's a problem. It's a
Yeah.
problem. And
It
it's
is.
not going to be, it's going to continue to be a problem until one of these, until, you know what is going to happen? One of these coaches, one of these boy geniuses are going to get to a Super Bowl and they're going to fuck up royally. And the whole world, like Nathaniel Hackett, I'm sorry. First of all, if anybody knows his dad wasn't exactly a genius either. And this guy looks lost. Looks lost.
Yeah. Like he has no idea what he's doing.
None.
None.
But hey, he's white and he's an offensive guru and he can scheme his way out of a paper bag, but can't run a football game to save his fucking life. Like guys like this get coaching jobs, but Eric Bieniemy, oh no, we're not sure how smart Eric Bieniemy is. That's Andy Reid's offense. But Nathaniel Hackett, why? Because he gave Aaron Rodgers a couple plays. He's a genius now.
It's nepotism.
I don't want to make it a black. I just say that's honestly not even the point. But the issue is that these coaches, man, they're just amateurs, man. They're just amateurs. A lot of them. I've not been impressed. Staley and with the Chargers, he's another one.
He he doesn't have any fucks to give, bro. He just whatever he's feeling in the moment.
For the sake of, it's just, you know what it is? It's just football and vibes with him. Like,
it's Madden. It's like they're playing Madden.
It's 4th and 30. I'm gonna go for it. Yeah, it's just football and vibes.
It's like they're playing Madden.
Yeah.
Staley specifically, even though he's been a little more conservative this year to start the year.
Yeah, he's been a little bit better this year, but still, he made some
last
wacky
year
plays in that Kansas City game. Like
last year, I was literally screaming. I'm on a Charger fan. I was screaming at the TV, like, "What are you doing?" I had no money on the game. I had no dog in the game, and I'm just like literally screaming at my TV, like,
man. They just make some puzzling decisions. It's not all the young ones either. I mean, McDermott fucked up royally last year. I mean, he's another one. And sometimes you kind of wonder if he's paying attention to it. I mean, so it's not all the young guys, it's not all the offensive coaches, but listen, I miss the days of the Parcells and the Joe Gibbs, classic throwback NFL coaches that knew what the fuck they were doing.
Yeah.
They were CEO coaches. They knew what the fuck. They knew how to manage the clock. They knew how to call timeouts correctly. They knew what plays to challenge. They were involved in every intricate detail of the NFL. People kill Belichick. Belichick's old. He can't draft worth a shit. He's this, he's that, he's that. Oh, now all of a sudden his whole career is invalidated because he hasn't won with Tom Brady. But I trust Bill Belichick any day of the week over some of these new guys. Any day of the week, give me Belichick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my other point. I'm sorry, I went out on a tangent.
No, I mean, Belichick's the greatest coach of all time, in my opinion. So,
bro, it's bad. It's bad. Like, I don't think the coaching in this league has ever been worse.
It's definitely different. The league is different now, man. It's. I was saying this earlier today, and just from a fantasy football perspective, I know it's different than actual football, but just the way like the wide receivers and the quarterbacks, like the way that teams score, the way they get into the end zone, like. I know it sounds weird, but like they're like goal line offenses are different now. Goal line defenses are different now. Strategy when you get to the red zone is different. Like everything is just, I wouldn't say gimmicky, but it's a little just.
It feels very arena football like.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it feels like. It definitely, gimmicky is a good word for it. It feels gimmicky. It feels like a gimmick for everything instead of just traditional meat and potatoes football.
Like, right? You got the ball at the 2, first and goal. Get in the I formation and pound it down their freaking throats.
Right. And that's why I love college football to me. Even though college has got, you could argue college was there before the NFL when it came to kind of this gimmicky offense, right?
Yeah.
And college was there in a lot of ways. But I still think in college you still see more of a little bit more of the diversification of play styles and offenses, right? You still, if you watch Big Ten football, you still see traditional I formation, traditional football. the way it was meant to be, and that's what I love about it. In the NFL, I mean, it's just become gimmicky. Like these coaches. I mean, but it's not even so much the offense or defense and schemes or whatnot. It's just honestly the stuff that just kind of doesn't go. That you don't really notice in the stat sheet is clock management. Like I think, like I want to sit in an interview one of these days, right? Like I would just kill to be like a fly on the wall, like accidentally stumble into a Zoom meeting and see what these NFL interviews are. Do they ask these coaches about clock management? Like literal scenarios, like, hey, you've got the ball at the 30-yard line and it's 10 seconds left, like
Right.
but you got one timeout. Are you going to run a play, then call a timeout? Are you going to call a timeout, then run a play? Whatever. Are you going to clock it?
Right.
Not like I want them to ask them different scenarios and see how these coaches answer. Because I really don't think they just interview these guys and like get a sense of clock management scenarios. And listen, clock management is one of those things you got to be in the game, in the moment to really kind of see it.
Yeah.
But it's hard, man. It's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard watching. I mean, some of these coaches just make decisions that just like
make no sense.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of games in this league now are lost more by coaching decisions than ever before.
It's possible. Yeah. Or decisions not to, score a touchdown when you're up one score and the clock can run out because the team doesn't have any timeouts left. So you score a touchdown and then team scores 14 unanswered points to beat you. At the Browns.
Bro, that game. I mean, I listen. That is the game that I try to be a sensible fan here. I really do. But when it comes to the Jets, I'm not sensible, right? I'm a fan at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right? Listen, I had Robert Saleh fired already. He needed to go. Literally with 2 minutes left, and the Browns are up 2 touchdowns. And literally, here comes the Jets. Come back. They completely. But listen, that is if I'm a Browns fan, I'm sick to my stomach. We lost that game. That is, and Stefanski's getting some of this. And this is why I wish some of these coaches played in a big market. Where I don't know about I don't know about Cleveland if they're going to ask Stefanski tough questions, but that's New York. I mean, they're frying this dude. I mean, how do you lose that game?
You give the game
tell Chubb to just be like, "Yo, don't score, kneel. The game is fucking over."
Right. I don't know. I mean, you think you assume that your player knows that?
Maybe
they don't even think about it. I mean, some people think you go up.
I don't think they thought about it. I think they thought the Jets were dead. And listen, give credit to the Jets. They stayed with it.
Yeah,
they kept playing. Give credit to them. Sometimes it takes two to tango. So to give credit to the Jets.
Yep.
But I mean, if you're Stefanski, you can't lose that game. That is. I listen. I couldn't be an owner of some of these teams. Every Monday morning, I'm calling this coach.
Everybody's getting fired.
Every fucking Monday morning, I'm Jerry Jones in this bitch. I'm calling you into the office, and I'm like last week, Nathaniel, come here.
Right.
Come here. We gotta talk. Come here. What the fuck was that?
Right.
What was that, my guy? Nathaniel. I'm calling him by his government. Nathaniel. Please, explain to me. I traded for this guy. I paid him $240 million.
Tell me why I can fire you right here on the spot.
You get a 60-yard fucking field goal when I paid this guy $240 million? Explain, please. Yeah. Sorry. I didn't mean to go on such a tangent, but I get it. That was the biggest thing for me just watching 2 weeks of NFL football this year. It's just like how bad the coaching is, how lost some of these coaches. I think part of it is just how young these coaches are too. But I just think it's just really bad, man. Where it's just like you're just seeing some of these coaches and like it just feels like they have no idea what's going on.
Right.
And then the answers after the game are just like, what? Like you're trying to decode this shit. Like what was that? Like what? And they have no answer for it. They just know they won't say they fucked up. And so they just try to talk circles around it it's just bad. It's bad. But let's kind of rapidly go through these games. Chargers, Chiefs from Thursday night.
Chargers should have won that game. Game they let slip right through their hands.
I feel like we say that every year about the Chargers. They won that game. They should have won that. They're the Kings that should have won it.
This could be any week in any season for the past 10, 15 years.
Jesus Christ with the Chargers.
Yeah.
Man. They literally figure out ways to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yep.
It is amazing to me with the Chargers. What do you think about the Chiefs?
I like the Chiefs. I think they're kind of flying on the radar this year in the sense where they were everyone's favorite to win the Super Bowl for a few years, and now they're not. They're not the darlings anymore. You have the Bills who kind of overtaking them for that as the Super Bowl favorites, and I still think they're a solid team. I still think that they're probably a force to be reckoned with in AFC. Like they're a team that, if they get hot under the right circumstance, Patrick Mahomes can outduel anybody. So, they're not my favorites to win AFC. They're not my favorites from the Super Bowl, but I definitely think they're a contender. I think you have to take them seriously for sure.
You think they miss Hill in any way?
Yeah, I mean, you always miss someone who could take the top off the defense just like that. I mean, you can't replace that. Patrick Mahomes has looked pretty good. It's only been 2 games. And that's I mean, Tyreek Hill, you saw what he did last year in the playoffs against the Bills. I mean, he basically took a pass in the middle of the field and just outran everybody, and they pulled off a miracle. You're not getting that this year from this team. If they're in that same scenario this year against the Bills, they lose that game. So they don't have that extra element.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I think the demise of the Chiefs has been greatly exaggerated. I think the Chiefs are still going to be right there at the end.
Yeah.
They're not as dynamic as they used to be. So I do think they miss Hill in that regard. They don't have that home run hitter, that guy that can just instantly come up and hit a grand slam.
Right.
At a moment's notice. They don't have that. Instead of just bashing your way to around the bases, they're going to have to kind of hit doubles and singles and line drives. That's who they are now. But hey, listen, as long as you got 15 there, as long as you got Andy Reid, their defense seems to be a little bit more improved this year too.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just not that security or that sense of security of knowing that, hey, you have this offense that at any given moment can quick strike you down the field and just, maybe they have to figure out, maybe they feel like, hey, listen, we gotta bear down a little bit more. We gotta at least try to play some defense this year.
Right.
Who knows? But it's through 2 games. They still look like the Chiefs, man. So I'm with you on that. And the Chargers, man, it just forever just feels like they just let these games get away. It just really, really, really does. So, all right, Dolphins and the Ravens, 2-0 Miami. Talk about stealing a game. The Ravens were on their way to, 2-0. Everybody feeling good. Everybody on Twitter basically saying, pay Lamar Jackson, which pay
You still should, by the way. You still should.
Yeah, pay Lamar Jackson. I don't know what the hell the Ravens are doing. And then here come the Dolphins. Boom, boom, boom. And then touchdown, takes the lead, and see you good night. See you next week.
I mean, I don't think the Dolphins are going to win an AFC or anything like that, but I do think, they definitely can get a wild card spot. I think both these teams are good teams that we're going to see probably in the playoffs down the road. I think the Ravens are going to still win the AFC North. They're still my pick to win the AFC North.
Really?
And they gave that game away, but I expect them to bounce back. I don't think this is going to derail their season whatsoever. I just think the Dolphins kind of put the league on notice, like, hey, we got some weapons and we're a force to be reckoned with, because they are. Speed kills, man. They are fast. That's a team that's fast, and especially in the NFL today, the way that it's going, like they are pretty much a modern prototype of what the NFL is. So, they're a team that I take seriously. They're a team that I think will probably be a wild card team. And I think they're a team that you're going to have to take seriously every single week.
Yeah, I think they're definitely a wild card contender. I mean, listen, the only question mark I really have with the Dolphins is the quarterback. I mean, we talked about it with Tua. He's the biggest question mark. If he plays well, they'll be in the playoffs and they'll be a threat. Yeah. If he's Tua, where some weeks, he's out there throwing flutter balls and knuckleballs out there. I mean, you never know, right? So, Listen, he's the biggest question mark for them. But, if he plays well, or at least plays like he did yesterday, maybe not exactly like he played yesterday, but close to it, they'll be a force to be reckoned with. I mean, they got a good defense. They got a good run. They got a good offensive line. Their offensive line is improved. Obviously, we talked about the receivers. There's no reason why that team can't win 11 games and make the playoffs.
Right.
So,
I agree.
And the Ravens, the Ravens are the Ravens, man. I feel like, Lamar is Lamar. We know that. They need to pay that man. The Ravens are a weird team, man. I can't never really put my finger on it. It's just I almost feel like they're so Lamar-centric that I think that sometimes that really kind of comes back to bite them.
I guess so, but I mean, for me, that wasn't on their offense. That was more of a defensive breakdown that they had last week. So, Lamar, they put up 35 points.
They did.
It wasn't the offense that struggled there. Although, I mean, they failed to respond every time the Dolphins scored. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you put up 35, you got to win that game.
You got to win that
38 points. I'm sorry, not
38 points. And the Ravens they're going to look back and feel like, man, we let a big game slip away. Think about games that slipped away. Browns 30, 31.
Shout out to the Jets, baby.
Listen, As a Jet fan, listen, first of all, I'm not going to complain. A win is a win. The first Jets win in September in 4 years. When you think about that stat,
That's disgusting.
That is crazy that we have not won a fucking game in September in 4
It's
years.
disgusting. That is
So
gross.
now, and listen, there's a lot of positives. I said it in on Twitter, so I sit in a normal Twitter space. Shout out to my guys at Middle Mission Podcast. I was on their space last night, and I said it last night. This next game is gonna be the telltale sign for the Jets. What do you do to build off of this? You want a dramatic, once in a lifetime comeback effort. Now you need to stamp it and back it up. Come out there next week. I don't even necessarily got to win, but go out there, play a clean, competitive, fun game against the Bengals, a team that's going to be desperate for a win in your building. Go out there, play well. That's how you show Jet fans that, okay, this team is starting to figure it out. They're starting to get it. If you come out there and get blown out, or it's another game where we sit there, we lost, but we made so many dumb mistakes, turnovers, penalties, this, that, and the other, it's just going to be more of the same. I will say, though, the positive, Garrett Wilson is a star. That guy he's giving me Odell Beckham when he was first
that far. Ooh, that's strong words, man.
Garrett Wilson is nice, bro.
He's nice. No, he's nice. And I think Elijah Moore is a perfect compliment to him as well. Elijah is someone who I don't think
that's the most frustrating thing about the Jets right now. They have talent. This
Breece
might be the most talented Jets offense.
Breece Hall and Michael Carter are fantastic running back duo.
Dynamic. You got Corey Davis.
Yeah.
You've got Garrett Wilson. You got Elijah Moore. Braxton Berrios, who would be a slot receiver on a lot.
Yeah. Shout out to Braxton.
They've got a tight end. They haven't even used CJ Uzama yet.
Right.
They've got a good offense.
They're talented. They're young. They're really young, but they're talented. Is Zach Wilson? Zach, what is Zach?
Honestly, is that even so much Zach necessarily? I think it's the coaching. The coaching still leaves a lot to be desired, man. I mean, Robert Saleh is another one of these guys. And again, you just kind of wonder, like yesterday, some of the decisions, some of the timeouts, the clock management.
Robert, to me, I think he doesn't put his imprint on the game. I know it sounds weird, but every time I watch a Jet game, I just feel like he doesn't have an impact. Does that make sense?
I agree. No, bro, thank you.
It's not so much he's bad.
He's a defensive coach, right? He's a defensive coach. He's known as a defensive guru. There goes that word again, guru. This defense it's better for sure, because last year, I mean, it was just historically bad. So it's better. By definition, it's better. But even the defense, the defense isn't great.
Right. There's no scheme that he's put in place. There's no scheme he's put in place that makes you think, oh, that's his imprint. It just seems like it's any other. It could be a generic. Yeah.
He feels like a substitute teacher. He really does.
Even
it's just there.
Yeah, even when Todd Bowles was on the what do you ever thought of him? You felt an identity with the team. You know what I mean? It's just
I agree.
Whether you liked Bowles or not, there was something with Saleh. It's just kind of I have no feelings towards him. I don't think he does anything.
Coaches the team. That's what I feel like.
And I like him. I like the dude. I think he's a really. I like his energy. I like his vibe. But there's just something that's not clicking with him. And this is someone I'm an outsider, so it's not like I'm in the locker room. I'm not in the film room.
Perfect. You saying this because you're an outsider looking in. You saying this is everything that a lot of Jet fans are being like. He just kind of feels like, again, he's out leaving his imprint. The defense is still a problem, even 2 years in, and with a lot of significant upgrades. Still, I think the biggest thing is the personnel decision, who this coaching staff decides to play and not play. The Denzel Mims thing is still a mystery 2 years after the fact. They literally have this kid, a second-round pick, who, listen, I'm not going to say he's Jerry Rice, but a kid that's showed talent, popped on the field, and for some can't buy a snap. Can't buy a snap.
Yeah.
How many teams can tell you that they have a second-round wide receiver, and he can't see the light of day?
It makes no sense.
I wish I had an answer for you. I didn't,
Yeah.
I mean, some of the personnel decisions. I mean, again, Uzama. I mean, his usage, the decisions that this team makes and this coaching staff makes, it just leaves a lot to be desired. And
why isn't Uzama playing? They just rather go with Conklin.
I don't know. I think the reason I don't think he's hurt. He's not hurt. He's not listed as hurt. Right. He's not on any injury report that I've seen.
Yeah.
And I think it's just blocking. I think they think Conklin's a better blocker. I don't. I don't know,
All
man.
right.
I mean, it's things like these that just leave you scratching your head. Like, am I missing something? Like,
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
Right.
But all that being said, the Jets are 1-1. We won a game in September, and listen, they're starting to show signs. They're starting to show signs. I don't need Robert Saleh taking receipts and taking on the New York fan or whatever the fuck he was trying to do last week. What the hell was that? This is a memo to coaches. In any market, you can't take on the fans. You're never going to win that fight.
Ever. Especially in New York.
Don't do it. Don't go down that road.
Especially in New York.
You're not going to win that fight.
Yeah.
All you're going to do is alienate the fans even more, make a bigger target on your back than you already would have had. Just don't do it. Don't do it. So,
Yeah.
And listen, he walked it back, his Wednesday presser or whatever. But yeah, Robert Saleh. But listen, at the end of the day, they're 1-1. They are showing signs of life. And Garrett Wilson, man. Garrett Wilson. I mean, and even that decision, like last week, he only played like 4 snaps or something like that, something crazy like that. Like he didn't even play like half of the game. Like, what are you doing? You've got this talent at wide receiver.
Well, now it's excusable. Yeah, and Breece Hall barely played week 1 too.
Jesus Christ. Well, they need to learn the playbook. What do you mean they need to learn the playbook? Talented, play him. They're the Jets. We haven't had a great offense in like 20 years. Play him. The fuck? Like, oh gosh. Yeah, the personnel decisions sometimes leave a lot to be desired. But anyway, let's move on. Redskins did it again. The Commanders and the Lions. Lions win this 36-27. Lions are looking better, man. They should have won that game last week.
They play hard, man.
This game this week.
They play hard.
Commanders, I just never get a read on them. They're another weird team that I just can never really put my finger on. Sometimes I watch that team and I feel like they should be better than what they are. They've got a good offensive team. Their defense is not that bad, even though they're missing Chase Young. Ron Rivera is a decent coach. They got talent. There's just always something missing with that team. I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's quarterback play. It's probably quarterback play. I mean, you have Carson Wentz this year. Last year, you're relying on Heineke because you went with Fitz and he got hurt. Quarterback position is a pretty important position, but they do have skill players, and their defense, to me, should be better.
Yeah,
they have talent on defense to be better. I don't know. I don't think Ron Rivera has done a great job over there. I like Ron. I think he did a fantastic job in Carolina, obviously, but I don't think he's done a good job in Washington.
What Ron Rivera does, he's just like a calming influence. He's an adult in the room.
He's a dad. He's a dad.
But that's why I say he's an adult in the room.
Actually, not even that. He's a grandfather.
You know what you're getting. He's a calming influence.
Right.
You know what you're getting around.
You respect him.
Exactly. Is he a great coach? No. But you could do a lot worse with Ron. I don't think he's the biggest issue. I don't know. I look at that team. Maybe it is quarterback.
I think it's quarterback.
I think Carson Wentz better than I think people give him credit for. Listen, maybe it is the quarterback position, but I don't know, man. There's something missing with the Commanders that I just can't put my finger on. Every year, it's just the same thing. I watch that team, and I feel like they should be better than what they are, and never really. I feel like that team is just perennially 8-8. It's like they're just never better, never worse. They're just 8-8. Or 8-9 or 9-8 what now, I guess. But that's just what they are. Colts and the Jaguars, 24-0. I mean, you can't score a single point against the vaunted Jacksonville Jaguars defense.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it before. It's kind of sad that they couldn't do that. But shout out to Trevor Lawrence, man, 25-30, 2 touchdowns. He was this generational prospect, and for a generational prospect, nobody talks about him. Like, no one says anything about Trevor Lawrence.
He had a horrible year last year. I think that did it.
I think so too, but like, there's no media hype around him. There's really no even expectations. Like, Trevor Lawrence better perform. Like, no one really cares because he's in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So, but he played well.
Peterson's a good hire. I love that hire. I thought he was. Listen, Doug Peterson went from winning a Super Bowl and everybody loving him and being this maverick, wild goose play caller, and now he's like a horrible coach somehow. I guess that's the way the coach the coach reputation goes from year to year. Yeah. I like Doug Peterson. He's a solid head coach. I know he makes some questionable decisions.
Yeah,
he's kind of the anti what we've been talking about, where sometimes he's almost too aggressive. But I like Doug Peterson as a coach. I think he's a solid head coach, and I think he's going to be good for Lawrence. And the Jacksonville's building something. They're building something. It's going to take time. They're still not a really good team yet. But
definitely on the rise. Definitely on the rise.
We're in a division that's not impossible. I think what you're also seeing is that division is probably not going to be that good. So
the Texans, the Colts, and Texans, Colts, and Titans all look awful.
Yeah,
none of them have a win. They're the only team with a win in the division.
Yeah. I think that
they might win the division.
I mean, listen, while you're both like while you're like halfway joking, you're not really that off. Like I think they may win that division. I mean, I know again it's 2 games, but listen, with what you've seen from the Colts and the Titans and Houston, we all know Houston is a guy with great chase. Although Houston's better than I think people give it credit for. They're competitive. They play hard.
Competitive, yeah, for sure.
And Davis Mills, we'll get to them. I'll save it for Houston. But listen, why not Jacksonville?
Exactly.
I mean, at least two games. Why not Jacksonville?
I can make the argument that Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in that division right now. Better than Davis Mills. Better than Matt Ryan doing what he is right now. Better than Ryan Tannehill. You could make that argument.
I could also make the argument Davis Mills might be the best quarterback in that division. I like it.
Okay, yeah, because Davis Mills had a solid season last year. Yeah,
he's good. He's solid, man.
Yeah,
he's not bad.
What I'm saying is, you can make the argument.
You could.
Yeah,
you absolutely could. It's not even. You absolutely could.
Yeah,
you absolutely could. You really, really could absolutely just make that case. That it was just crazy to think about when you.
Yep.
When you think about it, it is just. We'll get to that game. Texans and the Broncos, man. I think this game is more about the Broncos.
Same.
Broncos stink. They're not that good.
I cannot believe
Russell looks shot.
Not only looks shot, I don't know if he had this problem in Seattle. I don't remember having this problem in Seattle, but he doesn't seem like he's reading defenses correctly. I don't know if it's the play calling. There's just. Jerry Jeudy went out with an injury, so maybe you lose a receiver there. But it's not like he doesn't have weapons. I mean, you have Javonte Williams, who's one of the best young running backs in the league. You have 2 receivers who are, in my mind, underrated in Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. Yeah. This team should not be putting up the amount of.
Judy's always hurt. Judy's always banged up. Yeah. And they're missing what's his face?
Tim Patrick.
Tim Patrick's out, which is a big loss for him.
Yeah, but still, I mean, you should. This shouldn't be. This is ridiculous. There's like it's 2 games, but it's like bordering the absurd right now. Along with Hackett's play calling or timeout situation, it's almost a joke right now. If I'm a Broncos fan, I'm watching this season like this. This has to be a joke.
Well, listen, I'm not the only one that's coming up with this theory. Other fans online, so if I could give you credit, I will. But
okay.
Remember, they hired Nathaniel Hackett because they thought they were getting Rodgers, and they ended up getting Russell Wilson. So, just saying, we're running an offense for a guy that isn't necessarily built to run that offense. Maybe.
Yeah, but if you're a head coach, you build around you
especially a quarterback, especially a potential Hall of Fame quarterback.
Exactly.
You're supposed to make it work. So that's more of an indictment. That's even more of an indictment on Nathaniel Hackett, if that is the case.
Exactly.
I'm just throwing that out there. That it's funny that they got Hackett essentially to get Rodgers and they got Russell Wilson, and it's like, wait, can this really work? We'll see. They have not looked good. And I wasn't even a big believer in Denver even before the season started. I thought they were getting a lot of love, and I was just like,
I was on them.
I don't see it with Denver.
I was one of those people on there. For sure.
And think about Russell Wilson now. You can't blame Pete Carroll. He's not there anymore to blame. Right? Let Russ cook. Well, they're letting you cook, and you fucking blowing up the kitchen right now, bro. You're starting to stove fires like a motherfucker right now. You let the broccoli burn. The rice is smoky. You're just fucking up right now badly. Now, listen, 2 games. I got to stress 2 games, but this is just our week 2 overreaction, maybe.
Right.
We'll look back in retrospect and damn, these niggas were stupid. And hey, maybe so. But the Broncos do not look really good
at all.
Lost, and
they look bad. They look bad.
Yeah, they did not. They did not acclimate themselves well here. These first 2 games. And listen, again. It's 2 games in a 17-game season. These games are important. You got to win these games. Get it
Well,
for
they're
give away
1-1.
these games.
1-1 is
They ended up
1-1.
winning. They ended up winning. So,
Yeah.
and they scored a touchdown there. And I think the hope is, if you're a Broncos fan, is you take that fourth quarter drive and that fourth quarter touchdown, the fact that they were able to win the game and they can carry that over into next week. That's the hope. But
We'll
if they
see.
come out next week and it's more of the same, it does not look good for the Broncos. But we'll see. We'll see. Bucks Saints. We talked about it a little bit at the beginning. 20-10 Bucks. I think the highlight of this game is the fight between Mike Evans and listen, get you somebody that protects you like Mike Evans protects Tom Brady.
Mike Evans has been waiting to do that to Lattimore for the past 3 years.
He
was just looking for an excuse.
Man. It's beef on site between those two.
Yeah, he was just looking for an excuse.
Listen, protect your quarterback at all costs, man. That's why I say, get you some fellas, even ladies, if you're listening, get you somebody that will ride for you and support you the way Mike Evans rides for Tom Brady.
Yep.
That's like the ultimate. That's love goals. That's relationship goals.
Oh my God, absolutely.
20-10. Honestly, I don't even know what to say about. Two teams are, it was a good defensive matchup. Again, I think the Saints are limited by the quarterback. I really do. They've got talent. We all know the Saints have talent.
What I could argue,
if they had a great quarterback, they'd be a Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
But I just think.
No Julio Jones, no Chris Godwin, no Mike Evans for half the game, and the Bucs still won. That's what I take from this game.
Yeah. And Brady didn't play great.
Right. And they still won.
He's very pedestrian, and they still won. So, I think that game. And if you're the Saints, again, you got question marks at quarterback. Jameis is the guy. He can win you games, but how far can you really go with Jameis Winston? That's the thing. Listen, I know everybody in that building is going to say the right things. Oh, we love Jameis. Jameis is great. He's our guy, yada, yada, da-da-da. But I don't know how. I question Jameis Winston long-term there. But we'll see. We'll see. Your Giants 2-0. Giants 2-0, 19-16 over the Panthers. And what's your thought? What's your early thoughts on Brian Daboll?
I like Daboll. I don't like the team. I know they're 2-0, but I don't like the team. You know what? I take that back. I don't like Daniel Jones. But Daboll's fine.
Danny Dimes? You're not a believer in year 4 of Danny Dimes?
Danny Dimes, he had a play where he dropped back, looked to his right, saw 2 Panthers defenders with no Giants in the area, and threw it right. Like even the broadcast was like, how broadcasters try to give the players benefits of the doubt because you don't want to embarrass them. Even the broadcast was just like, I have no idea. Like, I can't even begin to. He's just not.
Baby. Danny Dimes, baby.
Nah, man, he's not it. He's not it. But I give Daboll a lot of credit for keeping the guys together for now. I give Daboll a lot of credit for going for 2 in Tennessee. I think that set the tone for his coaching tenure. I think it set the tone for the team. I give the defense a lot of credit. They're playing. Granted, they're playing against Tennessee and they're playing against Carolina. It's like they're playing against powerhouse offenses here. But, I think they're winning these games on defense, if I'm being completely honest with you. And Daniel Jones is just doing enough to get by. They had 2 early turnovers to start the game, and they got 6 points out of it. It's like you turn the ball over, you get the ball in your red zone immediately, you get 6 points. That's a recipe for disaster. If you're playing the Eagles, you lose that game. If you're playing, the Chiefs, you lose that game. You play the Dolphins, you lose that game. But they're fortunate enough that their schedule has been a little kind to them to start the year. I expect them. I know they got the Cowboys next week, so they can win that game. But after that, they're going to lose. They're going to lose a few in a row.
Yeah, listen. This year, honestly, if you're the Giants, I think it's about 3 things. Well, so far it's been about 3 things. Daboll, for me, in 2 games has shown more than Robert Saleh shown in 19 games. I'm sorry.
Right. His stamp is on the team. His personality is on the team.
He's there. I can see it. He's popped so far. Listen, the Giants right now, their offensive line seems to be much improved. Obviously, I think you got a coach, and I think Saquon Barkley is recaptured the magic again. Those are 3 important things for the Giants going forward. This is a building block year for the Giants. Just don't be a disaster. That's the thing. If you're a Giant fan, I don't think you can expect much from this year. Obviously, 2-0 is going to kind of gas a lot of Giants fans, but this year is about, if you win 7 or 8 games, if you're a Giants fan, I think you got to be happy with this year. I think this is a team that's playing for next year and the year beyond, not necessarily this year, because Daniel Jones is limits you at the quarterback position. He's just not that good.
Right.
I think everybody knows it. I think they're playing him out. I think they're playing out the string with Daniel Jones because they honestly have no other alternative.
Right.
You know, what does it get the Giants playing Tyrod Taylor? Nothing, right? They got to see at least what, you know, if nothing else, you got to see what Daniel Jones is to see if you even bring him back next year on a 5th-year option, or you could maybe trade him or whatever. But, you know, the quarterback of the future of the Giants is not on this roster. I think it's evident. But I think if those other things show out, I think it's been a successful year. And, you know, listen, Dable, I do think that the decision last week was a little overrated just because the Titans could have still won the game and probably were going to win the game if it wasn't for Blankenship missing the kick. So I think in hindsight, it obviously works out and Dable looks better for it. But I do think it was a little bit overblown. I was like, oh, my God, that was such a fantastic play. Calm down. The Titans still went down the field and you know, basically could have won the game. That being said, listen, the vibe around the Giants does feel a little bit different. It feels like they've got themselves a coach for the first time in a long time.
Right.
And that's a win for the Giants.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not expecting much. So it's 2-0. I'm not, you know, having these delusions that they can win the division or even make the playoffs. You know, they played a Titans team.
I will say the NFC is wide open, bro. Like, I mean, why not the Giants? I mean, I agree with you. I'm not.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're too limited at a quarterback. But, I mean, if Daniel Jones could just be serviceable, I mean, their defense has improved. Their offensive line is improved.
I just don't trust
Saquon plays like Saquon plays. I mean, you know, the NFC is not that great. I think that's what we've seen so far through 2 weeks. I mean, like, the NFC is not exactly this murderer's row where, like, you can rule out any team, honestly.
Right.
So that's the one, I guess, saving grace I would give Giant fans. It's like, why not the Giants?
Yeah.
2 games. We'll see. Steelers, Pats. We talked about this game a little bit earlier. Oh, before we get to that, the Panthers. I feel so bad for Baker Mayfield, man. You know, OJ. You know, OBJ is still holding him back. It's so sad. That's the crazy thing. You know the power of OBJ. The fact that he's not even on an NFL roster right now. He's not even on the same roster that Baker Mayfield is on, but he's still somehow holding back OBJ.
How does he do it? Is he that much of a team cancer?
How does he do it? Oh, and one thing on OBJ. Can you sign with a team? Do I need to see OBJ basically taking college tours through each team? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, sign with a goddamn team already.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know
he was in LA, then he's in Buffalo shaking hands, then he's in Tampa and New Orleans. You know, like this motherfucker's taking a college trip. Like, what
he's enjoying his time off. He's enjoying his time off.
Credit to OBJ. He's living a wonderful life. He's got nothing to complain about. But you know, can I see you again when you're ready to sign with a football team? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Whoever that may be, you know, just I don't need the OBJ college tour. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, Baker Mayfield. Listen, I thought he was just being held back. I thought it was just a situation in Cleveland. He's a better quarterback than what we've seen. You know, he just honestly, I think he just doesn't have enough help.
Right.
I think what they need is they need Steve Smith. They need Cam Newton resurrected. But this time, not Cam Newton as a quarterback, maybe Cam Newton as a running back or tight end or just an athlete. He can just be athlete. His designation on the field can just be athlete. And
Greg Olsen in his prime. Greg Olsen in his prime.
Yeah, Greg Olsen in his prime. Maybe Keyshawn in his prime.
Right.
And Jake Delhomme as a backup. And
John Stewart at running back with Christian McCaffrey. Yep. and maybe, just maybe, that will be enough for Baker Mayfield. Maybe, just maybe. All I will say is I hope Matt Rule does not own his home in Carolina. I hope he rents. That's all I will say. That's all I will say about Carolina. Man,
hope Matt Rule is a
get in by 2 guys from the same draft class, Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, the first 2 quarterbacks taken in that draft class.
Wow. How bad does that draft class look in retrospect? The fact that the 2 best quarterbacks,
Josh Allen and Lamar.
Yeah, think about that. That's why it's an inexact science, man.
Yeah, because the three that were most hyped were Baker, Rosen, and Darnold. Allen and Lamar were like afterthoughts.
The 2 most dissected, I guess. And they may be the 2 Hall of Famers out of that draft class.
Yeah.
it's crazy. That's why I always say the NFL draft's a crapshoot, man.
Yeah.
Fucking crapshoot. You never fucking, especially with quarterbacks. You
Right.
never know. Never know. Who the hell knows?
Right.
So, yeah. Patriots and the Steelers, 17-14 Patriots. Patriots get the 1-1. Steelers are 1-1. Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, man. I think the Steelers, it was a winnable game for them. Just Trubisky, man. I think he limits that team.
It was a bad game. That game sucked. Both teams sucked to watch. And until Kenny Pickett plays for the Steelers, I'm uninterested in the Steelers. And the Patriots are like the epitome of average right now.
Yeah, the Patriots.
There's really not much to say aside from that.
There's not much to say about that game. The Patriots, yeah. Mac Jones, he's the king of the check down and the short passes. Like, he's not great. You know,
there was really just honestly like one play was made the whole game, and that was Nelson Aguilar, and that was the difference. That was it.
When Nelson Aguilar might be your best receiver, you know you have serious. So that's all I'll say about that. It's not a great game. Again, the biggest theme is just, again, it's Kenny Pickett watch. When are you going to play Kenny Pickett? Because he takes your offense, he takes your team. You know, he gives you that juice that a young quarterback can give you, and you just don't have. Trubisky's not the guy. He's just not it.
When they lose to the Browns this week, that's what will happen.
Let's hope the Browns don't blow a 14-point lead in a minute and 45 seconds. That's another conversation for another day. Falcons 27, Rams 31. Rams get the 1-1. Falcons are 0-2. Yeah, not really that impressed with the Rams. You know, they won. They're 1-1. They should have probably blown this game out. I know they took their foot off the gas a little bit there late in the game and allowed the Falcons to get back in it. But again, if you're a Rams fan, have you been that impressed through 2 weeks with the Rams?
No, not at all. They don't look like the defending Super Bowl champions, but like I said, willing to give them a pass. You know, don't know what they're going to look like towards the end of the year. They are a team that I think if gets hot and turns it on at the end of the year, we could see them right back in the Super Bowl. I mean, honestly, last year when the playoffs started, I don't think many people had them going to the Super Bowl either. So
no, I didn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's credit to them anyway. 49ers and the Seahawks. Seahawks won their Super Bowl last week and came out this week and laid a complete dud. And the 49ers refound their quarterback. So I guess it's all as well in San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco, to me, probably is the best team in the NFC right now. If I had a, gun to head, you had to ask me, water gun to head, and I had to ask me that. But shout out to Geno Smith. I know he got inducted to the Hall of Fame last week. So we'll just sit back and relax on this one.
Oh man, hey, listen, they wrote him off, but he words to live by. Words to live by. Shout out to Geno, man. Listen, the Seahawks are going to be better than I think people think. There's still some talent on that team, and Geno's, he's like, it's crazy because Geno's like better than Geno might, in a crazy way, he might be the best backup in the league.
Geno's better than a lot of backups who've gotten shots at starting gigs.
Right. He's not great. He's not a great starter. He's probably like a bottom third starter, but he's probably the best backup. Yeah. He's good enough to win you some games, but long term,
he's better than a lot of quarterbacks who got like long-term contracts for being back, like a Brock Osweiler. He's better than those guys.
Very true. Yeah. Very true. Very true. Yeah, and the Rams, there's not much to say. Seahawks didn't really play that well. The Rams or the 49ers played great. And again, we talked about it at the beginning, so we won't redo that. But yeah, the fracture to Trey Lance's ankle might be the blessing in disguise for that team. So, and it's in a sick, sad way it is, but yeah.
Yeah.
Bengals and the Cowboys. Cowboys go to 1-1. They win 20-17, and the Bengals are 0-2. The defending AFC champions are 0-2 to start the year. And I think the biggest thing for this game is the Bengals' offensive line still sucks. How?
Yeah, man. And I'm kind of sad that we didn't have like a pre-show for I know we tried to have it, and things got in the way, and then COVID happened. But my hot take was the Bengals are not going to make the playoffs. That was my hot take. Yeah, I think. I watched him a lot last year. A lot of it was because Joe Burrow was my fantasy football quarterback, so I was very, glued in on Bengals games, and they were not good until like the last four. They were a team that got hot towards the end of the year and kind of ran through the playoffs. But Burrow, even himself, and I'm not saying he's overrated, but he didn't have a great year last year. He was good. He was great like the last 4 or 5 weeks, but before that, he was very average, if not below average. And that line is not good. That defense is okay, but it's nothing to write home about. They're not going to win you football games on their own. So, unless you believe that he turned a corner at the end of the year, um, there was really no reason to believe that the Bengals were going to be as good as they were towards the end of last year. And I like Burrow. I think he's a little overhyped right now. And I think you're seeing it right now. Of course, the line has a lot to do with it. I'm not saying it doesn't, but this is what we saw from the Bengals last year before they went on the run. So
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, and I'm
yeah,
kind of with you. I wish we were in the previous show too, because I would have said the Bengals too. I think that it's very different. The Bengals caught a lot of people by surprise. Now they're a
yeah,
target. They're a bullseye on their back. Everybody knows who the Bengals are. Everybody knows they got that great offense. Everybody
right,
knows. And listen, I don't want to overblow it because at the end of the day, they probably still could have won that game. They had a great comeback there late in the game. But Burrow played great in the fourth quarter, so they
right.
had opportunities, and they probably should have won the game, or they could have won the game. But yeah, the offensive line is still a problem. Do you lend credence into, because I know there's some people, I was watching Greeny today, and there was some conversation about, well, maybe some of the offensive line issues is also on Joe Burrow, that he holds onto the ball too long.
Yeah, he does.
And that is part of the issue. But I also think that's a Zach Taylor thing, because you have to scheme around your offensive line better. Like, if you know
Right.
your offensive line can't block, and Joe Burrow likes to hold on to the ball, it's your job as a coach to either scheme better prepare, scheme better, and get some maybe shorter passes. I mean, you have Joe Mixon, you have a
Right.
very good running back, run the football more, establish the short passing game. And I know that's heresy to say when you've got, three great wide receivers.
Yeah, but they all do different things. Like you
They all do
can
different things.
yeah.
And listen, you are what you are. Your offensive line is shit. So unless you're going to improve the offensive line dramatically in season, you kind of have to scheme your way out of your deficiencies right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's part of it. I think part of the issue is on Zach Taylor himself.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, you have these long routes that take time to develop. I agree with you, and I think Joe Mixon is underutilized in the passing game as well. Run a screen, run wide receiver screens, man. You got receivers who are good after the catch. So yeah, I do agree with you with that as well. I mean, they are a team that got hot, like I said. Similar, like I always compare it back to my Giants. Giants win Super Bowl next year, they're not even in the playoffs. It's something like that where it's just kind of like, is Eli Manning that great? No, he just got hot and they won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Same thing with Joe Burrow. I like Joe a lot, but I think people got obsessed with his personality because he's dope.
No, Joe Burrow. Hey, listen, I'm a Joe Burrow stan. I like Joe Burrow. I think the guy's a great quarterback, or has the potential to be a great quarterback. I think he's mostly blameless in this. I think when you don't have an offensive line, man. I mean, when you're that guy got sacked 70 times last year. I mean, you can't. You can't. I'm blowing the number out of proportion, but he got sacked a lot. So you can't survive like that. I mean, they better be lucky that he hasn't hurt himself yet. And they got to fix that offensive line. And that's the thing, they made additions to that offensive line in the offseason. So I thought the offensive line. So is it a scheme issue? Is it a coaching? Maybe the offensive line coach needs to be in trouble. Like, what is it? Because again, everything you heard, everything you read about is that the Bengals significantly improved this offensive line, and it's still an issue. I mean, that offensive line is still a sieve right now.
Yeah, it's still an issue. And until they fix that, they're not doing anything.
Cardinals 29, Raiders 23. Cardinals improbably go to 1-1, and the Raiders are, I don't know, shockingly or maybe not unsurprisingly, 0-2.
Yeah,
this was a weird game, man, because I was watching a lot of this in the first half, and the Raiders looked really good, and the Cardinals looked really bad. And the Cardinals are one of my teams that I picked as an under. I don't like the Cardinals. I don't think Cliff Kingsbury is a great coach. You and I think, are succinct in our questions about Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
And it looked like another bad week for them. But somehow or another, and listen, give Kyler Murray credit. We just shitted on him, but give him credit. He made some absolutely amazing throws, and the scramble there at the end for the touchdown was amazing. I think he ran something like 70 yards, 20
ridiculous.
seconds. 50. I mean, something crazy. Y'all know the stat. Google it. It was crazy. Listen, give credit to the guy. He figured out a way to win the game. Is this more on the Cardinals winning and showing resolve and fight, or is this on the Raiders?
This is on the Raiders, man. I like the Cardinals. I mean, I don't like the Cardinals enough to say that this is the fight in the Cardinals, because they haven't really been a team that really showed me that, especially last year. So I'm kind of hesitant to be like, oh, they turned a page on this one. To me, this was about the Raiders kind of blowing it. The fumble at the end by Renfro. I know he had a concussion on that, so I don't want to put too much blame on him. But they pretty much did everything they could to lose that game. And I know you can say on the reverse that the Cardinals did everything they could to win that game, but the Raiders were in perfect position to win that game over and over and over again. They just couldn't do it. So to me, it was more the ineptitude of Las Vegas than it was, the fight and grit of Arizona.
There's something missing with the Raiders.
Yeah.
There's just something missing with that team. I can't put my finger on it. I know I said this before, so I was getting a little redundant about another team, but there's something. When I watch the Raiders, I don't know what it is. It's just something missing there.
Derek Carr doesn't elevate them. That's the problem. Their ceiling, like he can't break through that. I like Derek Carr. He's a solid quarterback.
I like Derek Carr too. And listen, I think it's easy to blame the quarterback, right? I think it's cliche, right? When the team underachieves or is not as good as they should probably be. Oh, it's quarterback, right? And I don't necessarily say you're wrong on that. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's coaching. I'm not a admittedly, I'm not a McDaniels fan.
Yeah.
I think he's vastly overrated. He didn't distinguish himself his first go around in Denver. I don't see much has changed. I know he's a boy genius. He's another one of these boy geniuses, but yeah, I don't. There's just something missing with them. They have talent. They have a good team. They have talent. And again, it's only 2 games. I get it, but yeah, I mean, 2 games. I think honestly, the first week, I mean, they probably could have stolen.
First week they got beat. They got
completely outplayed, even though they put themselves in a position to possibly steal the game. They got beat. And then this game, you can't lose that game. You can't. In no way, shape, or form can you lose that game. And they did. And they lost it just royally.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what to make of that team, man. There's just something missing with that team. Their offense is not as good as it should be. Their defense is not as good as it should be. I don't think they're greatly they don't have a great head coach. Yeah, I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. Packers 27, Bears 10. In a dud of a Sunday night football game. Bears are 1-1. Packers are 1-1. Is it all things back to normal in Green Bay?
No, I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that the Bears aren't good. They scored on the first possession there with Justin Fields, but that offense needs a lot of work. That offense is putrid. It's pathetic. It was a get-right game for Green Bay. Yeah, that's really what it was.
I agree.
This is everything that they were supposed to do. I don't know how good the Packers are yet, but I don't think it's a good barometer to look at the game against the Chicago Bears with, Justin Fields, in his first year really fully starting to kind of make that.
Fields looks better. Fields looks better. He feels a little bit more in command. I know
he'll be fine. He just
doesn't have a lot to work with.
Yeah, it's early in his career.
He's already on his second head coach.
He's not going to set the world on fire. Like, he's a young quarterback. I think he's going to be fine eventually. But right now, the Bears just aren't a good team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything you said. I mean, honestly, I can't even say anything much about that. I didn't come away. Wow, the Packers, man.
Yeah, they did what they had to do.
They did what they had to do. And then listen, that's a skill unto itself. Because we've seen a lot of teams lay an egg against bad teams that they're supposed to beat at home. So sometimes that happens. But listen, the Packers do what they're supposed to do. They beat up on the Bears. Hopefully this is a sign of things to come for the Packers, that they're righted the ship. They can, Aaron Rodgers becomes a better leader somehow and doesn't pout and cry and doesn't decide he wants to do a Pat McAfee episode every week when the Packers lose. But anyway, hopefully he's vaccinated too. And he's not on LSD. So yeah, shout out to Aaron Rodgers, man. Shout out to the Packers. They did what they were supposed to do. So credit to them. And we'll go to the 2 Monday Night Football games tonight. Why were there 2 Monday Night Football games?
I have no idea.
I think they do that because they get shorted a game because there isn't a Monday Night Football game at the end of the year. So they usually remember how the beginning of the year they usually do that doubleheader, but it's usually like an East Coast game and
for week 1, but it's week 2.
Yeah, basically 2 Eastern games, like Tennessee and the Bills, and then you like 2 games that kind of cannibalize themselves. So
right,
I know that the Bills Titans game ended up being a dud, so a lot of people probably switched over, but that made no sense. Andrew Katz, if you're out there listening somewhere, that made no sense. But yeah, Bills Titans. I don't know what more can we say. I guess the Bills are who we thought they were, and the
And the
Titans
Titans are who we thought they were.
Yeah, the Titans. Yeah, they're in trouble, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. Malik Willis came in there to relieve Tannehill there late in the game. I guess are they already planting the seeds for a quarterback change?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but eventually it will. Malik Willis is going to be a starting quarterback for the Titans next year, at least, for
Oh,
sure.
for sure, next year. I mean, he may be the starting quarterback like next week. I
Yeah,
mean, because you yourself said it, they don't have a lot of pieces on offense. So why not put Malik Willis in there and
he's a
make
playmaker.
he's
I
a
mean, you could
playmaker.
say that. I mean, just by watching him in preseason, he can make plays with his legs, and that's more than you add that with.
The grain of Vrabel. He can play plays with his legs.
I mean, honestly, it sounds you have RPO offense with Derrick Henry. Like, come on, like,
yeah. Why not?
That's how I would run it.
With Tannehill right now, you're not going anywhere with Tannehill right now. So
Yeah,
why not
yeah.
give the kid a shot? Maybe he sparks you, and
Right.
I mean, they're in a winnable division. So
You got to decide whether or not Malik Willis is keeping the football or Derrick Henry's keeping the football. Like, try stopping. Like, come on.
I think I would not be surprised if Malik Willis by week 5. I don't know when their bye week is, but by week 5, that he's not starting there.
Yeah.
And then the Eagles and the Vikings, man. Same old Vikings for me.
Same old, man.
Listen, this is not taking away from the Eagles because we talked about it at the beginning of the show. The Eagles are much improved, so this is not an indictment on the Eagles per se. But I think the Vikings, man, it never ends with them. They have all this talent every year, and it's just like it's the same thing. They'll win. They'll come out. They'll have a game against the Packers, and maybe that game was more about the Packers than it was about the Vikings. But they'll have a game like that. Good feelings, good vibrations, everything like that, right? And then they'll come out and lay a complete egg against the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, I have to stop believing in them. It's only one game. I mean,
I think we all do, man.
It's hard to win in Philadelphia. I just think the disheartening part was the fact that it wasn't even close. I mean, from the beginning of the game, it was just Philly was in control. So it wasn't even like they played well and just ended up losing to a team at home in prime time. It was they got the doors blown off of them, and that's the disappointing part.
And it was more of a mismatch than the actual final score because I mean I think Philly could have put up some more points there.
Philly should have won that game by 40 points.
Yeah. The Vikings were not that impressive.
Yeah.
Listen, I think this game eventually will be more about the Eagles, though. I think the Eagles are legit. I think the Eagles are a good team. They may be. It's crazy to think about, but the Eagles could be the second or third best team in the NFC when it's all said and done. I don't think that's crazy to say right now. I mean, they've got a good running game. They've got Jalen Hurts, who looks like he's improved. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins. The Eagles look legit, man. Their defense is much improved. Their offensive line is improved.
They look good. And
Sirianni, both laughed about that hire. Like, who the hell is Nick Sirianni? But he's done a really good job with that team. Listen, Eagles got it going, man.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I think last week when they played the Lions, even though they beat the Lions, I was like, man, they had a little trouble against Detroit. I'm not really sure. But, Detroit's looking like they're going to play everybody tough. So I might have to reevaluate the way I look at the Eagles because Jalen Hurts, I mean, I don't see much of him. But from what I saw today, I watched the whole game. He looked – everything he did, he looked good. Running the football, in the pocket, out of the pocket, making throws on the run, decision-making, everything. I mean, even his interception wasn't really his fault. So if he can play like that for the rest of the year, which – I don't know if he can, but I know he's really talented. The Eagles are going to be really freaking good. They're by far and away the best team in the NFC East.
What do you think is Hurts' ceiling?
Pro Bowler. I mean, I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer, but definitely Pro Bowler. I think he can win a Super Bowl. You can win a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts.
I don't want to go there yet, just essentially, but I think he's definitely a guy. You know what he is? He's a poor man's Lamar Jackson. And I say that in a complimentary way. He's not as dynamic as Lamar Jackson. Like, he can't just wreck a game with one play.
Right.
But he's kind of like if Lamar Jackson's like the Ralph Lauren version of himself,
Right.
Hurts is like the Tommy Hilfiger version. Like, he's good, solid, looks nice, cleans up well. It's a good. I mean, whatever the analogy you want to use. Yeah, he's good, man. I think. Listen, and I've been a Hurts critic. Like I've had my doubts with Hurts, but he's really played well, and
Yeah.
again. I said at the beginning, he's showing that natural progression that you want to see with a young quarterback. He's
Yeah.
showing that he's getting better from start to start. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think and more or less, and more so, I think the Eagles are proving that they are a legit team to beat in the East and in the NFC for sure.
Yeah,
So.
for sure.
That is week 2 in the NFL wrapped up.
Yeah.
So before we get out of here, a couple things I wanted to talk to you about. Brett Favre, Mr. Dick Pick QB, now you can add a welfare scammer to the list.
Not surprising. Once you realize what kind of man Brett Favre was, and it's interesting because Brett Favre was like this folk hero, right, in the NFL for a lot
Right.
of people. And then like the internet came and Google came and you could start like actually reading things about him and scandals about him and how he is as a human being. I am not surprised by this at all. Um, it's just really frustrating, man. And I say this, I'm gonna get a little political here, but I know his political leanings.
Oh yeah.
I know the leanings of the politicians who helped him basically extort this money, and they're the first people to complain about people on welfare and poor
Think
people,
about that. Think about
and that's the aside from him actually stealing the money, that's the most frustrating thing. Like, you have the fucking nerve to complain about these people who need these to feed their children, this money to feed their children, to clothe themselves, to whatever it is, and
Mind you, in a state that has a water crisis right now.
well, not just a water crisis, it's is the least educated state
Educated and the poorest state.
and the poorest state. So it's not like the state is full of riches. There are poor people everywhere. There are uneducated people everywhere. There are people who need help in your community.
A state that has a water crisis as we speak.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I for those people who aren't really politically inclined like you and I are, I don't know if they really understand how disgusting this is. Like, this is beyond disgusting, and I think he should be. I think he should be in jail.
Absolutely, bro. You can't. I couldn't have said it better. I mean, the fact that you. How do you sleep at night? No, and that's the thing that gets me, right. Is like, again, you're rich. You're
There's no
rich.
need for it.
You're
still making millions of dollars off fucking regular jeans.
You could have built your fucking spoiled brat daughter a fucking tennis court with your own fucking money if you wanted to.
Right.
But you didn't want to. You said, fuck it. I'm going to use the system that constantly benefits the rich. We all complain about, socialism and communism for the poor, but, socialism for the rich exists and no one ever bats an eye. Like, it's so, but this is why I blame the American public. I blame conservatives. I blame, centrists, all these people that constantly complain about, like student loan repayment. I'm going to tie this all together, I promise. But everybody like complains about, student debt. How are you going to forgive student debt? Oh my God, what is that going to do to the younger people? It's going to show them that they can just take and take and take and take and take and not pay back. And oh my God. Well, what about shit like this? Like, what about shit like this? I mean, first of all, I'm not surprised. You're right. I mean, rich people doing heinous, terrible shit, abusing the poor. I'm shocked. This is the United States of America. Right? Like, to the fucking audacity to live in a state like Mississippi where you know the wealth inequality. You know the issues going on in that state. You know it. Brett Favre, I think, is a smart guy. I mean, he did take like 400 fucking hits to the head as a quarterback. So maybe he's a few brain cells short. But nonetheless, I still think he has a well enough working brain. You know the things that are going on in Mississippi. He's got energy to talk about Black Lives Matter and riots and police and all that other shit, right? And whether black quarterbacks should get paid or all these other issues that are going on in the NFL. He loves giving us his opinion on that. So I know that he's at least well informed on the things that are going on in his own fucking state. And for him to sit there and fucking take money from poor people and listen. I know the welfare system is broken in itself. And there's a lot of reform the welfare system needs. There's a lot of people within welfare that scam the system. But that doesn't mean that rich fucking elites like Brett Favre and his fucking Republican buddies should take advantage of it also. It's just, all of them should be thrown in jail. But they're not. Of course not.
Man, that A+.
Like, the fucking gall of this guy. Like really? Like really?
It's entitlement, bro. It's entitlement.
But in Mississippi, the poorest fucking state
They
in
think
the
he
country.
thinks he's earned it. He thinks he's earned it. That's how they think, man. They think that everyone on welfare, these people are just people who are peasants and they don't deserve anything because they didn't
Just a
work
bunch of
for
poor
it.
black people. They don't need anything.
Yeah, come on,
That's
man.
that's essentially what they.
And that's the thing. Like you can't.
Statistically, there's more white people on welfare, but that's what they think.
Especially in Mississippi.
Exactly.
Especially in Mississippi.
Exactly.
So
It just. You're right. It's just greed and just a lack of empathy for people that are less fortunate, and it's
entitlement.
So easy to me. It's heinous.
Yeah.
It's heinous. It's heinous what it is. And listen, if it was for even just a moderately decent cause, I can at least live with it. But to build your fucking daughter a fucking tennis court for her little school so she could go play tennis or volleyball, whatever the fuck she wanted to play, like not a fucking volleyball court in a fucking inner city neighborhood. No. God forbid we can't do that. You know, Mrs. Little Favre, a little fucking volleyball court so her and her little fucking Valley Girl friends can play. Like it's just
right. And can't you donate that and have it as a tax write-off? Like
yes!
there are fucking ways like around.
Like, oh man, bro, when I heard that story, when I got through the initial, like, I'm not surprised, even though, and then I'm just like, the fucking audacity of these people. And then these are the same politicians that fucking rip, like you said, rip welfare queens and all that. And,
They're the first people to talk about welfare people ripping off the system, but the last people to complain about rich people and these corporations not paying fucking a dime.
Student enrollment payment is like the worst crime that evil Brandon, dark Brandon can do. But,
it's like, a black mother might, get an extra few bucks feeding her children. They should throw them in jail. But you know what? This fucking corporation doesn't pay.
A black mother bought lobster with her EBT card. How dare she?
But this billionaire finds a way to fucking hide millions of dollars in taxes, and that's okay. It's because it's all about hierarchy to them. It's all about status. It's all about entitlement. And those rich people and they themselves identify with people who work hard and deserve everything that's given to them. It's fucking entitlement. And those below them are peasants who cannot come to their level because they are not working hard enough and they don't deserve anything. It's all that fucking mindset. That's what it is.
Brett Favre, Phil Bryant, who's the former governor of Mississippi, that helped them pull off this fucking scam. And everybody involved, everybody who knew that was involved, that the current governor, the current state legislator that tried to fucking cover it up, they all should go to jail.
I agree.
All of them.
And it's not going to happen.
It's not. It's not. Because it's Mississippi and it's a deeply red state and people will just find a way. And that's why I blame the public. Because you think Republicans in that state, a predominantly Republican, predominantly red state, they're going to find ways to mince words about it or talk around it or ignore it because it doesn't feed the overarching theme that the Dems are bad, evil, whatever. But you see shit like this going on. How do you fucking condone it and justify it?
I think they just, like I said before, I think they justify it by, a lot of poor people look at rich people as if they got there because they're smart or because they deserve it. And I think a lot of times you give grace to those people. That's why they're willing to give grace to people like Donald Trump, to rich politicians.
Can you imagine if this was LeBron that did this shit?
Oh, forget it, bro. Yeah, forget it. It'd be on SportsCenter every 2 fucking minutes. And that's another thing. Like ESPN, Fox, these programs aren't holding his feet to the fire.
No, has it even been on it? I know Undisputed did a segment.
Yeah, like that's another thing. It's not just like the government right now. It's like the news corporations too. Like ESPN does. ESPN, first of all,
fucking guy had the nerve to fucking chastise fucking Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick. Whatever you may think about a cause or whatever, Colin Kaepernick, who was doing something noble as just taking a peaceful protest. He's a fucking villain. He's this, he's that. Right. But this fucking schmuck.
Honestly, and Colin Kaepernick, a lot of it was police brutality, but it was also about the socioeconomic conditions that black people live under. And Brett Favre just proved Colin Kaepernick.
It was about the flag. It was about Drew Brees' grandparents fighting.
Right, my bad. You're right.
And this fucking guy, bro, listen, the unmitigated gall of these people, it just never ceases to amaze me.
That's the thing. He's going to get a slap on the wrist, and he's not going to have it. He's not going to learn anything from it. And the state of Mississippi, the people of Mississippi, they're not going to learn anything from it. It's a sick cycle, bro.
Sick cycle, man. Hey, the rich keep doing rich shit. Capitalism, man. That's what it is.
It
Sorry,
just
Daisy. It's not a.
it
It's
just
not
it
a.
just it
It's
just
not a.
bothers me. It bothers me when lower class people, middle class people, even upper middle class people get so just enthralled or frustrated or mad at people on welfare or entitlement programs because they're trying to feed their children, but do not give a damn or give a pass to these billionaires and these corporations who every year find a way to not pay a single dime in taxes. I don't know how that doesn't bother people more than someone trying to feed their family. It's the same thing where it's just kind of like, oh, the minimum wage should be a living wage, and then people are like, oh, are you saying a fast food worker should get paid just as much as me? It's like we're not coming at. We think everybody should have a living wage. That's the point of fucking a living wage for minimum wage. It's that everybody should be able to work 40 hours a week and be housed and clothed and have food. It has nothing to do with you. If you have a problem with how much you get paid, you form a union and you take it up with your employer. But for you to look down at the poor and look down at somebody who's a fast food worker and you think you have this elevated status over them, that's how people like Brett Favre, that's how rich politicians get these people, because in their minds, they have this status over poor people when they really don't.
Couldn't have said it any better, man. And the thing that
Sick.
gets me, like, student loan. Oh, you're gonna pay back. These people are they get to pay back. I paid off my student loans. Yeah, because your student loan
and where were you when
$40,000 in 1982?
Right.
Fuck off.
Right.
Student loans now are like these kids are coming out of college in debt, $100K in debt.
Right.
It's not the fucking same anymore. And if you really read into and do research how the colleges profit from all this fucking shit, these universities were the real fucking greedy bastards and all of this, like, listen, the whole system is rigged. We could be here all day. We know this.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is because I think people don't know and don't care to know. And I think that it's
honestly,
I think it's just easy to blame things, the preconceived notions that you already have, that like it's only black people on welfare, it's only these scammers and these people that take advantage of the system that are on welfare.
To me, it's so like this stuff is so obvious. Like for instance, like when Obama was president, right? The right attacked him for so many things he didn't do when the obvious things were right in front of your fucking face. He bailed out corporations. He bailed out the banks during the recession. Like, that's a fucking alley-oop right there. But instead, you decide to go down the route where he's this fucking Muslim Kenyan who shouldn't be president of the United States of America, when it was a perfect opportunity to say, hey, look, here comes another guy who's going to bail out
the fact that Obamacare was essentially Mitt Romney's policy.
Yeah, but they don't fucking care. Like that, and that's the thing. It's like we have two parties in this country that are corporate capitalist, that are corporate and capitalist, right? In their own ways, they feed the rich. In their own ways, they let the rich get over it. In whatever way, they both do it, right? But we have one party or one group of people in this country who don't realize that and are so hell-bent on calling Democrats socialists and communists that Democrats are able to get away with it. And then they think Republicans can't do anything wrong, so they let Republicans get away with it on that end. It's just like it's a mind-blowing, frustrating, like just frustrating cycle. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone.
It is hard. And again, I keep going back to, it's a state right now. Obviously, we all know it's the poorest state in the union.
Right.
But it's a state right now where Jackson, Mississippi is going through a water crisis similar to the likes, if not greater, to the likes of Flint, Michigan.
Right.
And what do you see on the news today? Not this story, not the water crisis, the fucking royal funeral.
Right.
Who gives a flying fuck?
Yeah.
Puerto Rico's under fucking water right now.
I was just about to say that. I was about to say Puerto Rico's underwater right now.
Yeah. Underwater. Literally underwater. No, but Our Majesty, Queen Elizabeth.
The queen of the country that we freed ourselves from because we wanted nothing to do with the monarchy. Like,
oh God, please help me.
These are the same people who suck off our founding fathers, but then don't realize that our founding fathers would look at this and be like, "What the fuck are you doing? This is what we got away from."
God, you can't make this shit up. You cannot make this shit up.
You can't, bro.
You cannot make this shit up.
Yeah,
man. I don't know. It's oh God, gosh. Gosh. Anyways, yeah. Brett Favre, you're a scumbag. Phil Bryant, you're a scumbag. What else is new? It's the Republican Party, man. What else is fucking new? What else is fucking new? I mean, it's a Monday in Mississippi. What else is new?
Literally, like that. Literally, yeah.
What else is fucking new, man? Jesus Christ.
Uh,
Moving on. One last thing. Are you into the Aaron Judge home run chase as a Yankee fan?
Nah, man. I like Aaron Judge and everything. It's hard for me to, as someone who watched Barry Bonds and saw that, I know the whole steroid thing. I get it, but I saw it happen. I lived through that excitement. It was real to me. I can't just erase that. I can't. I can't do it. I'm rooting for Aaron Judge to hit 60 depth. I mean, that's a great feat. Don't get me wrong. And if someone wants to celebrate that as a real home run record, that's on them. But as someone who was a big baseball fan growing up and then saw what Barry, like first living through Sosa, McGuire, and then living through Barry Bonds, it just, I can't undo that for me. Yeah. So that's how I personally feel about it. How do you feel about
it? I'm the same way. I mean, I had a debate with Mark the other day on Debatables, live on LBReal.com. No, we debated it last week, man. Listen, Aaron Judge is having one of the greatest statistical seasons any player has ever had. I mean, he's going to go down in Pantheon as well. I mean, he can win the Triple Crown and hit 60 home runs, which is unprecedented.
Yeah.
In this era, which is another thing. That being said, yeah, I hate this thing in sports. It's done a lot in college, right? Like a disgraced coach, like Joe Paterno, for instance, right? He didn't do enough with Sandusky, so now we're going to wipe him off the history books. He never won 400 games, like that's he won the games. Like
he won the game. You don't got to worship the guy.
You don't got to worship the guy, but like to pretend like those games didn't count. We're going to wipe those victories away. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Like the same thing with Barry Bonds. Listen, I hated what they did. In a way, I feel cheated because it's like you cheated. Fuck what you did to yourself and your own body and your own long-term effects, your health or whatever. But what you did to me as a fan that fell in love with the sport, was at that age where was fall in love with baseball, and then you have that home run chase. You're the same age I am. You know the feeling.
Yeah.
You cheated us as fans, but I'm also not going to sit here and pretend that I didn't see it. And the other thing about it too is like I blame baseball itself because they've muddied the waters and it's become so convoluted. So now you have some older fans that are saying, no, 61's really the record. No, 72 is the record if you're our age. And baseball's kind of like, I don't know, we'll leave it up to interpretation. It's up to you. You decide. Like it's stupid, it's corny. Because I think the other thing is like I think baseball doesn't really want to put asterisks around the records because when you delegitimize an era, you have to delegitimize everything in there. You can't delegitimize the things you don't like. So, like, for instance, if you delegitimize Barry Bonds, then you have to delegitimize the Yankees in the 90s and Derek Jeter, right? Not saying that Derek Jeter took steroids, but what I mean is if by definition that whole era is nullified because of steroids, then everybody is nullified. You can't pick and choose because for instance, how do we know that Derek Jeter didn't do steroids? We assume he didn't. I think he didn't do it, but how do I know? I wasn't fucking.
When did Andy start doing his? Like it's.
How many pitchers did the Yankees benefit from their own staff for being juiced up?
Yeah.
How many pitchers did they face that were juiced up or not? Like, where does it end? Right? Like, it's hard. The era was shot. And listen, I blame Bud Selig because you think Bud Selig thing? No, they knew. They all knew.
Right.
They all knew that this was going on. It did nothing.
Right.
Somehow Barry Bonds is in the Hall of Fame, but Bud Selig is? How? How do you explain that? He's the commissioner of the steroid era. Barry Bonds can't go. And I go, Bud Selig?
That is wild. That is wild.
But if we're saying steroids is bad, you're going to honor managers and a commissioner that knew this was going on. Don't tell me he didn't know. He knew. People knew. Now, did he have tangible evidence? Did he have proof? He knew. He was trying to get steroid testing for the longest time. That was one of the sticking points in the 94 strike. They were trying to get steroids, drug testing in the CBA. The players, on top of everything else they were fighting about, they said, no, fuck no, you're not testing us. Like, what am I missing here? Like, side tangent. I'm going to go down that rabbit hole. But my point is, like, it's just become so complicated and so convoluted that they've just muddied the waters with it. So now it's just goofy. I can see it. I can listen to an argument saying that, listen, Bonds and Sosa and McGuire, they destroyed the record books. So now I'm only going to acknowledge, Maris is 61. But then it's like, what, you're going to pretend like Bonds didn't exist? So Bonds didn't hit 73. Right. McGuire didn't hit 71. Like, it's just goofy. It's stupid. I don't know.
Yeah, it sucks because, I mean, one of my favorite memories growing up in sports was not the Bond. The Bonds was cool, but the Sosa McGuire, that was
for younger kids that may be listening to this show, that baseball's boring. That summer captivated. That was the biggest story in sports that summer, was that home run chase.
Yeah, and so was Barry Bonds, but I think
my lifetime has not seen those heights again.
Yeah, and Barry Bonds was for again, people who aren't old to remember, like when Barry Bonds came to the plate, ESPN would stop whatever the fuck they were broadcasting and go straight to Barry Bonds to show you that at bat. Like, that's how big of a deal Bonds was as well.
I don't think you'll see that with Aaron Judge. And again, nothing to take away from Aaron Judge.
Right. But that shows you what kind of event it was. You know what I mean? It's like, at the time, we treated it as if it was like the biggest thing in sports, really. And I can respect somebody who's like, man, that wasn't real. I mean, you can't pretend it didn't happen because it happened. But if you said a baseball leaves it up to your interpretation, then I'm gonna leave it up to my interpretation. But if someone else wants to have a different interpretation, that's fine with me. But to me, I watched it. It had an impact on my fandom with baseball. And Barry Bonds, to me, he was not some rando who like hit like 8 home runs a year and then all of a sudden took steroids and all of a sudden this month he would have been in the Hall of Fame either way. You know what I mean? Yeah. He was just a cheat code. So for me, I understand that steroids does help, but it doesn't help hand-eye coordination.
That's like LeBron. To explain to people that don't understand, that's like LeBron when he left Cleveland the second time to go to LA and he decided to take steroids.
Yeah.
It's like
I'm not condoning it. I'm not condoning. I'm not saying it didn't help him.
No, we're not condoning it. It's heinous. It's terrible.
But also at the same time, like Barry Bonds is, even before, if he never took a steroid, he'd be one of the greatest baseball players to ever play the game.
Facts.
So,
facts.
It's to me, like I said, I watched it. I enjoyed watching it. It's one of the last like really good memories of baseball that I have, because baseball kind of turned for me a little bit, where I started getting bored and frustrated with the game. But that was like probably right after Bonds and stuff.
Mets clinched the postseason, first time since 2016 tonight. So
got to win the NL East, baby.
Oh man, got to. Can't be a wild card. Cannot. Going through that stupid 3-game wild card series. Although I am looking forward to playoffs. Playoffs going to be good this year, man. The extra round, the wild card series. It's. Yeah, I mean, listen. I still think baseball is probably the best postseason to me. I know I'm biased. I get it, but it's just exciting, man. I mean, even the Dodgers are 144, right? Or 101 and 44 right now. So they're gonna have the best record by a mile.
Yeah.
The Dodgers are no lock.
No.
In the postseason, right? Like, you don't have that in basketball.
Listen,
very rarely do you have last year you had the Suns, everybody's overwhelming pick to win the NBA title. They lost in the conference semis. But how many times do you really truly see that? Yeah. Very rarely in the NBA. And even football, right? For the most part,
Baseball, man. Baseball, you got DeGrom, Scherzer. Good luck. I don't care. I don't give a damn who. I don't give a damn if it's a 96
games, man. You still have man. Everything can turn in one. You get
DeGrom, Scherzer, and then Edwin Diaz to close. You're making it. You're making that a game. You're making that a freaking. I mean,
are you going to be into the Yankees if they make it to the World Series?
I don't have an attachment to this team, man. I've tried watching them. I don't know if just because I'm so enthralled with like the Yankees teams that I grew up with, but this team doesn't really. It doesn't do much. I've been watching baseball. I was watching it earlier. Like I tailed off a little bit, but I have been paying attention to this season more than usual.
You know what's going on. You at least know what's going on. You know the storylines.
I know all the storylines. I know who's good. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, man. The Judge thing is gonna hold a lot of conversation. I mean, he's 2 away from 61 now. He's had a tremendous year. I mean, that's the other thing too. The Yankees, they're gonna have to pay him 400 million. And you know the rumors now, right?
Bro, you gotta pay him whatever the fuck he wants. In the negotiations, when he walks in and says, "This is what I want," you give that to him.
Owners, right? They got to stop playing these games with these athletes, bro, because you're hurting yourself. Like Aaron Judge, the Yankees probably could have had him for cheaper. Now, and listen, credit to Aaron Judge. He turned down that money and he bet on himself, so credit to him. But if you're the Yankees, you should have got this done because now the ask yesterday's price is not today's price,
right?
So
did to themselves, man. And the Ravens are doing it with Lamar. It's like, why are you testing greatness? Why are you daring greatness to be great?
I think with Aaron Judge, it's going to come down to the years, not necessarily the money. Because I think he's going to get the money, the AAV. I think it's going to come down to the years. I think he's going to want something like at least 9 to 10 years. And I think a lot, because he's 31. I think by the time next season starts, he'll be 30. I think he's 31 now. Let me Google it. I think he's 30. I think he's 30 now for sure. So he'll be 31 at the start of next year. And I think a lot of people are like, no, do we want to give a 10-year contract to a dude that's potentially 41, big, hulking, 6'8" dude? I mean, that's asking for a lot. I don't know. That's I think it's going to come down to the years for him. Trying to find his age right now. Aaron Judge is 30. So he's not 28. He's 30.
No,
so there are concerns that So he'll be 31 next April. His birthday is April 26th. So he'll be 31 next opening day.
So you think he has a good 6 years in him, maybe?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say, man. It's hard to say with these long-term contracts, man. I mean, who's to say, right? Who's to say that they sign him to a 10-year, $500 million contract and he doesn't play great for 10 years? He could just be one of those athletes that preserves himself well. And then the other guys that you think are going to last don't last worth a shit. So it's hard to say.
Yeah,
it's hard because and that's the other thing too. For the most part, he's put away a lot of the issues that have plagued him the first few years of his career. The last 2 years, he's been relatively healthy. But can you really count on that long term, right? If he's going to stay healthy. Listen, it's not my money, so I can easily say, go ahead and sign it.
Right.
Right? Go sign him. It's not my money. Listen. Yeah, the rumor is the Mets are going to go after him.
That'd be whew.
Listen.
I mean, new ownership, man. They've been waiting to make us splash.
I love having an owner that we're going to go after him.
He's been waiting to make us splash like that, man.
Hey, Aaron, what do you think about a 10-year, $400 million contract? No, I think the Mets are waiting for Soto.
You do?
Yeah. Soto's going to break the bank. Soto's going to be the first $500 million player. Yeah. If he stays healthy, relatively healthy.
Right.
Because he'll be free agent. He'll be 26. I think, he'll be 25 when he's not free agent.
That entering his prime. Entering.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Disgusting, man. Hey, listen, parents, have your kids play baseball.
Yeah.
Listen, it's a journey to get to the money, but once you get to the money, man, Jesus.
Right. And there's no CTE involved.
Right. Exactly. You won't have to worry about being a Brett Favre and sending dick pics and
right. Far away from that world.
People in your own home state. Anyways, that's it for us, man. We're gonna get up out of here. Good show.
Yeah, man. It feels good to be back.
Feels good to be back. We'll be back next week with another episode of the podcast. As always, thank you guys for listening, supporting, all that good stuff. If you want to follow us, you can follow us. Obviously, our names are right there. Dash_Rodriguez on Twitter, Instagram. Myself, Emmanuel Brown on Instagram and Twitter. Snapchat, MannyBro15. I'm on TikTok. I've been doing TikTok more and more. Trying to get into it. I'm still trying to find my niche. I'm not dancing. I promise. I'm not fucking dancing.
All right. You better not. You better not.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's not. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not riding the wave. I'm not doing the dances. But I try to do some funny content. So go follow me. I'm on TikTok as well. But yeah, man. What about you? What do you got? Anything for the listeners before we get out of here?
Yeah, man, I'm be starting off my podcast at Dime with Josh Rodriguez. It will be on the Balls Life Podcast Network. So go to YouTube, subscribe to the Balls Life Podcast Network. My show will be on their video format for the first season, for the first time. It's my 5th year doing the show, first time doing video. So really excited about that.
Yeah, definitely. And you guys know I got MLB Bro. Go support everything we do there. Debatables each and every week on MLBBro.com, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. Go follow us. Go support us. It's a stretch run here for us. So a lot of content here with the last 2 weeks of the baseball season. Dead End Sports. I'm on the Thursday show, so go support us there. But Tuesdays and Thursday nights, 9 o'clock, only on YouTube. And, of course, the podcast available anywhere you can find podcasts. And this podcast is available anywhere you can find podcasts. So, yeah, check us out. Drop a review. Become a patron, patreon.com, any given Sunday. Support what we do here, all that good stuff. So, yeah, I think I've done all the housekeeping stuff. So, yeah, for Josh Rodriguez, I am Manny Brown. This has been Any Given Sunday, episode 95. We are out of here. Peace.